Chapter 182. In the end, the upper-grade Gale armor was sold for 50,000 low-grade spiritual stones and fell into Li Wenqing's hands. Anyone could see that Li Wenqing had been cheated by Tianyang in this auction. Li Wenqing was furious and almost wanted to tear Tianyang apart. However, he did not dare to do so. A person who could destroy the demonic crystal war puppet in one strike was not someone he could provoke. Even he could barely hold on for 10 minutes against the demonic crystal war puppet. He could barely hold on in front of the demonic crystal war puppet, but Tianyang could kill it in one strike. The difference in strength between the two was obvious. However, once I get my hands on this Gale armor, my combat strength will definitely soar. After entering the Northern Wilderness secret territory, the first person I, Li Wenqing, will kill will be you. Li Wenqing glared at Tianyang viciously. Then, he took the Gale armor and other items and left the Snow Peak Trading Company. Tianyang looked at the people from the Snow Peak Trading Company strangely. They had returned his money, but allowed him to take the Flood Dragon Essence blood and the brilliant gold sword stone. Our president said that Sir Tianyang is only 15 years old and at the peak of level 5 of the Bright Chi realm, but you were able to kill the Tian family's great elder. Our Snow Peak Trading Company naturally has to make friends with a genius like you. This Flood Dragon Essence blood and the brilliant gold sword stone will be a gift to Tianyang. The middle-aged man in charge of giving him the items said respectfully. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled. His talent must have been noticed by the upper echelons of the Snow State. The Li family, Yi family, Yang family, and Xiao family have been enemies for a long time. They would definitely want to get rid of him. As for the Snow Peak Trading Company, Tianyang had never had dealings with them before. Naturally, they would want to make friends with Tianyang. After all, a genius at the peak of level 5 of the Bright Chi realm could kill the Tian family's great elder, who was at level 9 of the Bright Chi realm. Even in the entire Northern Wilderness region, such a genius was rare. Once he grew up, Tianyang's achievements would definitely far surpass everyone's expectations. It might even be possible for him to reach the Dao Fire realm. For such a genius, the Snow Peak Trading Company naturally wouldn't hesitate to befriend him. They could afford to give Tianyang 2 items that were worth no more than 50 million gold coins. After all, the Snowy Peak Trading Company was the largest trading company in the Snow Gale Nation. Even if the 8 great families were to combine their wealth, it would still be difficult for them to compare. I've picked up quite a bargain. After returning to his residence, Tianyang shook his head. He did not reject the Snow Peak Trading Company's good intentions. The Flood Dragon Blood Essence and the brilliant gold sword stone were indeed of great use to him. Moreover, since it was the Snow Peak Trading Company that had proposed it, his refusal would undoubtedly be a slap to the Snow Peak Trading Company's face. Although Tianyang wasn't afraid, Tianyang didn't want to become enemies for no reason. However, using the Flood Dragon Blood Essence to refine my body and improve my killing sword isn't something that can be done in a short period of time. The most important thing now is to refine those pills. Tianyang chuckled and walked into a quiet room. He took out his elixir cauldron and started refining. This trip to the Northern Wilderness secret territory, all kinds of pills were absolutely essential. Although Tianyang's Sea of Qi was 100 feet wide and there was almost no possibility of it being used up, Tianyang still had to be careful. If he really used up all his Sea of Qi, it would be a tragedy. He had mastered the Dragon Sword superpower, the Celestial Sword technique, and the Sunset Sword technique. If he really used all of them, it wasn't impossible for him to use up all of his true yuan. After spending about 10 minutes using the multiple elixir refining technique to refine the wound healing pill, the Qi restoring pill, and the other pills, Tianyang's eyes lit up. Refining low-grade pills like the Qi restoring pill and the wound healing pill was just a warm-up. This time, Tianyang was going to refine the real Tier 3 pill, the soul-dissolving pill. The soul-dissolving pill was a Tier 3 pill that could help a cultivator at the peak of Clear Qi realm to purify their true yuan and speed up the process of liquefying their true yuan, allowing them to step into the primordial transformation realm. The soul-consolidating pill that was sold at a high price previously also had the same effect. However, the soul consolidating pill was only a tier 3 pill, while the soul dissolving pill was not a low tier 3 pill. Moreover, the effect of the soul dissolving pill could completely overpower the soul consolidating pill. I thought that I would need more time to refine the soul dissolving pill. Who would have thought that I would need to refine it now? Tianyang smiled. According to his estimation, he would be able to break through to the primordial transformation realm in the Northern Wilderness Secret Territory. The Northern Wilderness Secret Territory was a secret territory, and there were many people there. Not only did he have to avoid the dangers in the secret territory, but he also had to defend against attacks from others. Under such circumstances, it was obviously impossible to refine the soul-dissolving pill. Therefore, Tianyang could only bring forward his plan. Blood-red demon Ganoderma, spiritual flower fruit, primordial green vine, and the other supplementary ingredients are all here. Tianyang smiled and injected his true yuan into the cauldron. The true yuan fire started to burn, and he began to refine the pill. A tier 3 pill could only be refined by a primordial transformation realm cultivator. Otherwise, how could it be given to a primordial transformation realm cultivator? However, Tianyang was only at the peak of level 5 bright chi realm. Although the amount of true yuan he had was comparable to a level 8 or 9 bright chi realm cultivator. However, he was still quite a distance away from the primordial transformation realm. Therefore, even though Tianyang had the courage and strength to directly throw out a set of ingredients to refine pills, without enough true yuan to support it, refining pills like this was akin to courting death. Destroying the pill was a small matter. However, if the cauldron exploded, Tianyang would not be able to withstand the backlash from the tier 3 pill with his current cultivation level. Therefore, Tianyang was very careful when refining the soul-dissolving pill. The last blood-red demon Ganoderma. With Tianyang's profound alchemy skills, the refinement of the previous ingredients was very easy. However, towards the end, Tianyang's expression became more serious. The blood-red demon Ganoderma was a type of demon Ganoderma. It grew when stained with blood and was much more violent than the other ingredients for the soul-dissolving pill. Moreover, the blood-red demon Ganoderma absorbed the blood of the demonic beast, which was the violent blood-red demon python. Therefore, refining the blood-red demon Ganoderma was much more difficult than refining the spiritual flower fruit. However, Tianyang did not care and threw the blood-red demon Ganoderma into the cauldron. Boom! There was an explosion and waves of powerful energy surged. In an instant, the entire room was enveloped by the blood-red demon Ganoderma's aura. Just by throwing it into the cauldron fire, it was already so violent. It was obvious how difficult it was to refine the blood-red demon Ganoderma. No matter how strong the ingredient is, it is still just an ingredient. Refine it. Tianyang roared, and the 5 ultimate chi seas in his body surged. Waves of true yuan burst out. The cauldron fire burned even more vigorously. At the same time, Tianyang's spiritual strength also shook. A spiritual strength that was many times more terrifying than the blood-red demon Ganoderma's aura enveloped the entire room. The blood-red demon Ganoderma completely calmed down. Under the huge difference in their life forms, even the most unruly ingredient could only be suppressed by Tianyang. Condense. After the blood-scarlet demon Ganoderma was refined into a drop of pure blood-red liquid, a solemn look flashed across Tianyang's eyes. Refining the ingredient could only be considered as the calm before the storm. Pill congealing was the most difficult part of pill concocting. Bang, 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 bang. The medicinal liquid kept colliding in the cauldron as Tianyang's face turned red. The difficulty of forcefully concocting a 3rd-grade origin transformation realm elixir with a cultivation base of the illuminating chi realm was far beyond his imagination. However, Tianyang released his spiritual strength, and Tianyang immediately found his rhythm. Waves of cauldron fire surged. It was like the most gorgeous painting of flames. The flames burned in the cauldron and were incomparably exquisite. This was the continent's peak level 6 alchemist, the Tianji Sword Emperor's pill refining technique. Now is the time. Condense for me. Tianyang roared, and in the next moment, a brilliant light shot out from the cauldron and into the clouds. Chapter 183. Once a grade 3 pill or above was successfully concocted, there would be a strange phenomenon. Level 3 pills would have the most basic pill fragrance. This pill fragrance was not an ordinary fragrance, but one that contained a little bit of the pill's power. Just by smelling this pill fragrance, Tianyang could feel that the true yuan in his body was slightly fluctuating, and there were even signs of it being purified. The Huayuan pill purified the true yuan and condensed it into liquid. This was how powerful it was. If a stronger level 4 pill was refined, then the pill fragrance would be as real as a substance and could be seen with the naked eye. A level 5 pill would cause the cauldron to be impacted. If it was a weaker cauldron, it might not even be able to withstand the impact of a level 5 pill. This level of pill seemed to have some spiritual intelligence and understood what it meant to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. A level 6 pill was even more frightening. In his previous life, when Tianyang refined a level 6 pill of the Heavenly Ascension realm, the moment the pill was refined, it even caused a phenomenon. Rolling thunder clouds gathered, and it actually caused a heavenly tribulation. Although it could not be compared to the heavenly tribulation that caused Tianyang to die and reincarnate, it was still enough to shock people. If Tianyang had not obtained some information from the ancient books, he was afraid that the level 6 pill that he had painstakingly refined would be above this heavenly tribulation. As for the existence of level 6 pills, it was not something that Tianyang could touch. Even in the ancient books of the heavenly continent, there were no records of it. That level of pill was an item from a higher world, and it was not something that this world could touch. Not bad. Not only was it refined, it actually fused perfectly, forming the pill veins. Tianyang patted the lid of the cauldron, and the lid flew into the sky and landed in Tianyang's hand. The pale pink pill inside appeared in front of Tianyang. The moment the pill was exposed to the air, the surrounding fragrance of the pill became even stronger. If it was someone at the peak of the 9th level of the Bright Chi realm, perhaps just by smelling the fragrance of the pill, they would have the opportunity to break through. With a wave of his hand, the origin conversion pill fell into Tianyang's hand. On the pale pink Huayuan pill, there was a circle of gold and a circle of silver. It was incomparably magnificent. This was the result of the pill being refined to perfection. In the world of alchemy, there were countless alchemists who spent their entire lives hoping to refine a pill with pill veins. However, in Tianyang's hands, it was only a 3rd-grade pill, and he was able to refine 1 gold and 1 silver pill veins. Moreover, Tianyang only said that it was not bad. If these words were heard by those alchemy experts, they would definitely vomit blood from anger. However, who is Tianyang? Tianji, Sword Emperor. 10,000 years ago, a 6th-grade alchemist at the peak of the continent only had 2 elixir veins, 1 gold and 1 silver. For the Tianji Sword Emperor, it was really not a big deal. If that's the case, then I'll use this time to cultivate. Tianyang smiled. According to Princess Ling Ling's information, the opening of the Northern Wilderness Secret Territory was not fixed. The various countries in the Northern Wilderness region only had a rough idea of when it would open. As for when it would open, they would have to wait until that day to find out. Now, it would take at least 10 days before the opening of the Northern Wilderness Secret Territory. In these 10 days, Tianyang could start to open his 6th Chi Sea and step into the 6th level of the Bright Chi realm. Tianyang had a premonition that once he stepped into the 6th level of the Bright Chi realm, his strength would definitely skyrocket. Originally, he would have to use all his strength to deal with the first elder who had used the beast pill. However, if he stepped into the 6th level of the Bright Chi realm, with his strength skyrocketing, Tianyang's strength would probably be comparable to a half-step to Primordial Transformation Realm expert. If he used the Dragon Sword Divine Ability, Sky's Sword Technique, Sky's Stepping Secret Technique, Sunset Sword Play, and a series of other trump cards, he might even be able to fight against a Primordial Transformation Realm expert. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, Tianyang immediately calmed down. He placed the soul-dissolving pill into a jade bottle and began to cultivate. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth here had been purified by the soul-dissolving pill's fragrance. In addition, Tianyang's divine wilderness, sky, spiritual skill had increased his cultivation speed by a lot. As for Ling Yuhan, she had also heard from Princess Ling Ling that the Northern Wilderness secret territory would not open in a short period of time. Without prior agreement, she also began to cultivate in seclusion with Tianyang. The others were also preparing for the Northern Wilderness secret territory. After all, it was a secret territory that only bright Chi realm geniuses of the younger generation could enter. It contained the treasures of all the experts in the history of the Northern Wilderness region. The Northern Wilderness secret territory. A month's time passed in the blink of an eye. In this month, other than eating and drinking to maintain his body, Tianyang did not take a step out of Qingfeng restaurant. The others also lived in seclusion. During this 1 month, Li Wenqing had finally branded his soul imprint onto the Gale armor, a high-grade treasure weapon. Oomph. How dare you make me spend more than 10,000 spiritual stones? Soon, the Northern Wilderness secret territory will open. When we reach the Northern Wilderness secret territory, I will let you experience the power of this Gale armor that is worth 50,000 lower spiritual stones. Li Wenqing said ferociously. In Qingfeng restaurant, Tianyang had also awoken from his cultivation state. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the surroundings had already gathered into a fog-like substance. Tianyang opened his mouth and swallowed all the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. The divine wilderness heavenly spiritual art in his body was activated, turning the true Yuan fog into true Yuan. The 6 ultimate sea of chi emitted rays of light and swallowed the true Yuan fog. Indeed, after a month of cultivation, Tianyang's cultivation had reached the 6th level of the bright chi realm, nearing the peak. Moreover, Tianyang's killing sword had also been refined by the dazzling gold sword and was slowly approaching the level of a half upper treasure. The flood dragon's body had been refined to the extreme by the flood dragon's blood essence. In addition to Tianyang's absolute control over the flood dragon's body, Tianyang had already stepped into the peak of the flood dragon's body. As long as there were enough treasures, Tianyang would be able to cultivate the 3rd refinement of the 9 refined dragon body. It's been a month. The Northern Wilderness secret territory is finally opening. Tianyang muttered as he walked out of his room and looked at the sun hanging high above his head. A sharp aura was emitted from his body before disappearing in a flash. The current Tianyang, in terms of absolute strength, was already able to surpass a half-origin transformation realm expert and fight a first-level origin transformation realm expert. Even the strongest country in the Northern Wilderness region, Sky Moon Country, did not have such strength. Looking at the message on the communication crystal in his hand, Tianyang smiled and brought Ling Yuhan to the Imperial family. The Imperial Palace. There they set off. Chapter 184. Whoosh, whoosh. The eagle flapped its wings in the sky, creating an ear-piercing sound as it flew towards the Northern Wilderness secret territory at an incredible speed. The Northern Wilderness secret territory was located at the intersection of the 3 countries in the center of the Northern Wilderness region: the Tianshan Country, the Snowfield Country, and the Sky Moon Country. Each of the 3 countries had once dominated the Northern Wilderness region for a period of time. However, every dog had its day. The former dominators were now inferior to the Sky Moon Country. Due to the large number of geniuses and experts, the Sky Moon Country had become the most powerful country in the Northern Wilderness region. The Snowgale Country was much weaker than the Sky Moon Country in terms of land area and overall national strength. We're almost there. A half-origin transformation realm expert from the Snowgale Country's imperial family said on the eagle's back. Hearing this, the geniuses on the eagle's back woke up from their stupor. The 3 countries were not far from the Snowgale Country. Therefore, even with the help of the imperial family's peak rank 2 demonic beast, the Snowgale Country's people still took a few days to arrive. However, compared to the opportunity they had in the Northern Wilderness secret territory, the few days of travel were still bearable even though it was boring. Is that the Northern Wilderness secret territory? Standing on the eagle's back, Tianyong squinted his eyes and looked into the distance against the cold wind. He saw that in the center of the towering mountain range, a spatial door that seemed to be moving was slowly opening. Let's go. Seeing this, the imperial family's man's expression changed. He quickly increased the eagle's speed to the maximum and flew towards the Northern Wilderness secret territory. Not long after, the Snowgale Country's people all arrived at the spatial door that was opening and looked at it. The Snowgale Country's people are here? Sensing the sudden, violent fluctuations in the air behind them, one of the elders with the strongest cultivation base narrowed his eyes and looked behind him. Then, everyone landed on the ground. At the same time, another group of people arrived. Yes, the Windy Country's people are here too. All the countries in the Northern Wilderness region are here. The elder smiled. His white robe fluttered in the cold wind, but it did not affect the elder's calm temperament. No one dared to make a sound when they saw this. After all, this person's cultivation had reached the first level of the origin transformation stage. The first level of the origin transformation realm was an insurmountable mountain for a group of half-step origin transformation realm cultivators like them. In a world of martial arts, the strong were respected. In front of the strong, they naturally had to be respectful. Greetings, Elder Bai. The person from the royal family of the Arctic state took a few steps forward, bowed slightly, and said. Beside him, another middle-aged man walked up and chuckled. Greetings, Elder Bai. Yes. The man called Elder Bai nodded and left. He did not want to get involved in the conflicts between the nations. He was only here to open the Northern Barren Territory. I say, why is your Arctic state getting weaker year after year? Among these 10, there's actually a weakling at the 6th level of the Radiant Chi realm. After Elder Bai left, the person who was with the middle-aged man from the imperial family glanced at the group of people from the Arctic state behind the middle-aged man and sneered. Hearing this, the faces of the people from the Arctic state immediately turned ugly. Yi Zhanling also walked over and said to Tianyong, who did not know the situation. The Windy Nation has always been on bad terms with our Arctic state. Therefore, in the Northern Barren Territory, the Windy Nation and the Arctic state were the ones who fought the most. Yi Zhanling said. Hearing this, Tianyong raised his eyebrows and looked at the middle-aged man. Seeing this, the middle-aged man from the imperial family shouted coldly. I advise the Windy Nation that the Northern Barren Territory has not opened yet. You'd better not cause any trouble. Hearing this, the middle-aged man from the Windy Nation sneered. Weak, and you don't even let us talk about it? I say, the last time you came to the Northern Barren Territory, you were at least at the 7th level of the Radiant Chi realm. You passed the passing line. The strongest one was a little genius who reached the peak of the 8th level of the Radiant Chi realm. Why are you so weak this time? Even trash at the 6th level of the Radiant Chi realm can come. Is there no one else in your Arctic state? Hearing this, the group of young people standing behind the middle-aged man from the Windy Nation burst into laughter. Ha ha! Yeah, there's no one else in the Arctic state. They can even send someone at the 6th level of the Radiant Chi realm. For trash like him, I can beat 10 of them. To deal with trash at this level, why do we need Senior Lu's help? Even I, Zhang Deku, can beat 3 of them at once. The group from the Windy Nation mocked. Hearing this, the group from the Arctic state looked even more upset. Seeing this, Li Wenqing's lips curled into a smile. Tianyong, don't you know? This lord is talking about you. The Northern Barren Territory is about to open, and you're still stuck at the 6th level of the Radiant Chi realm. Don't you feel ashamed? Li Wenqing suddenly stood up and shouted righteously at Tianyong. It was as if he was really thinking for the Arctic nation's reputation. Hearing this, Tianyong's eyes narrowed, and a chill flashed in his eyes. The Windy Nation and the Arctic state had a grudge against each other, and they were both from the Arctic state. Even if they had a dispute, they should unite against the outside world. However, this Li Wenqing actually sided with an outsider and helped the group from the Windy Nation to mock him. I knew that person was here to make up the numbers. Even the people from the Arctic state took the lead to mock him. I say, there's no limit to the number of people who can enter the Northern Barren Territory. Why would they send a trash? Make up the numbers? There's no need to make up the numbers. The fatty who was flattering the young man from the windy nation laughed wildly. Hearing this, the anger in Tianyang's eyes faded. He turned to look at the fatty named Zhang Deku and suddenly said, "You're quite self-aware, aren't you?" Hearing this, Zhang Deku was stunned, not understanding what by Tianyang meant. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan, who was at the side, could not help but burst out laughing. Zhang Deku, isn't he just ugly? Being laughed at by Ling Yuhan like this, Zhang Deku immediately reacted, and his face that was covered with fat immediately flushed red. The veins on his forehead bulged. He was just a trash at the 6th level of the Arctic state from the weak Arctic state. He actually dared to mock him, who was at the 7th level. "You're courting death," Zhang Deku roared. His meatball-like body shot out like a cannonball. In the blink of an eye, Zhang Deku was in front of Tianyang. "Go to hell." Low-class mystic martial technique, tornado fist. True yuan condensed, and streaks of gray whirlwind spiraled around Zhang Deku's fist. In the next moment, it turned into a whirlwind of true yuan light, rushing towards Tianyang. Insignificant skill. Tianyang laughed lightly. Using the dragon subduing step, his body became illusory and dodged the punch. In the next moment, facing the meatball-like body, a long, slender leg kicked out. Bang! Chapter 185. Bang! This kick, which did not contain any quintessence, directly sent Zhang Deku flying. Zhang Deku's meatball-like body tumbled in midair. Under Tianyang's kick, Zhang Deku shot toward the group of people from Windy Nation at a speed that was countless times faster than when he came up. What's going on? The people from Windy Nation didn't seem to be able to react as they stared blankly at the human cannonball named Zhang Deku flying towards them. Boom! In the next moment, the group of people were directly knocked away by Zhang Deku. The huge momentum brought by the huge mass caught them off guard. Even these geniuses who had reached the 7th level of the Bright Chi realm found it difficult to resist. Damn it! Seeing this scene, the youth surnamed Lu, who was flattered by Zhang Deku before, had an ugly expression as he glared at Tianyang. "Kid, do you know who you just kicked away?" The youth surnamed Lu angrily shouted. Hearing this, Tianyang indifferently glanced at the youth surnamed Lu and picked his ear. "Who? Isn't he just ugly?" Hearing this, not only Ling Yuhan, but even Princess Ling Ling couldn't help but laugh. However, seeing this scene, the youth surnamed Lu's face became even angrier. He didn't expect that a Bright Chi realm 6th level cultivator would dare to disrespect him. One must know that he was the most powerful person among the younger generation of Windy Nation. A few days ago, he stepped into the 8th level of the Bright Chi realm. "You are courting death," the youth surnamed Lu coldly shouted. His figure flashed and directly appeared in front of Tianyang. The Bright Chi realm 8th level's Zhen Yuan condensed and aimed at Tianyang with a thunderous blow. However, just as the youth surnamed Lu condensed his Zhen Yuan, the imperial middle-aged man immediately reacted. He coldly snorted and swung his right hand. A Zhen Yuan directly blasted out and directly sent the youth surnamed Lu flying. After hitting the ugly one, an even uglier one came. "TSK, TSK. If I hit you, would there be an even uglier one in Windy Nation?" After being interrupted by the imperial middle-aged man, Tianyang wasn't angry. He looked at the youth surnamed Lu with a smile and laughed. Hearing this, the youth surnamed Lu's face turned gloomy once again. He's just relying on someone to help him. When we get to the Northern Wilderness Secret Region, I will let you know what it means to beg for death. If you can, Tianyang said with a smile. At this moment, the middle-aged man from the Windy Nation, who had just mocked and been slapped in the face, had his face turned red. He glared at the middle-aged man from the royal family and Tianyang, then left in a huff. "Lu Qing, there's no need to lower yourself to their level. You can't do anything now. Once we reach the Northern Baron's secret territory, you can do whatever you want to them," the middle-aged man from Windy Nation said coldly. Lu Qing, the young man from Windy Nation, also nodded. He coldly glanced at Tianyang, and then left with the young man from Windy Nation, who had been knocked unconscious by Zhang Deku. At this moment, the people of the Arctic state also came over excitedly. Tianyang, I have to say, you were so cool just now. Yi Zhanling patted Tianyang's shoulder, gave him a thumbs up, and laughed. The Arctic state had always been weaker than the Windy Nation. They had always been bullied by the people from the Windy Nation when they went to the Northern Baron's secret territory. Now, Tianyang directly killed a young man on the opposite side as soon as he made a move. He even treated his opponent as a cannonball and directly threw him over. After such a move, the people from the Windy Nation actually stood there stupidly, waiting for Zhang Deko to hit them. The young geniuses from the powerful Windy Nation were beaten into a sorry state by the trash they had ridiculed before. This wave of face-slapping was really cool. And for the first time, the people from the Arctic state felt proud in front of the people from the Windy Nation. In this regard, Tianyang was too lazy to pay attention to them. In his view, the people from the Windy Nation were just clowns. There was not much need to pay attention to them. After all, when one's strength was enough to crush the other party, would one still be affected by the other party's actions and one's own actions of killing the other party in an instant? At this moment, Tianyang was like this. Tianyang, this idiot. This time, the Northern Baron's secret territory has not opened yet, and this guy has already offended the people from the Windy Nation. The Windy Nation is a powerful nation, second only to the Three Nations. Even our Arctic state is not a match for them. Li Wenqing stood at the side, looked at Tianyang, and sneered in his heart. You can only be proud now. When you enter the Northern Baron's secret territory, you will know how powerful a powerful nation is. The strongest among us is only at the 8th level of the Clear Qi realm, and you're only at the 6th level of the Clear Qi realm. Li Wenqing laughed wildly in his heart. Then, he looked at Lu Qing, who was standing not far away with a cold face. In his eyes, an inexplicable light flashed. His lips moved, and he channeled his true yuan. A secret message was sent to Lu Qing. I am Li Wenqing from the Arctic state. I am at the Clear Qi Stage 7. Didn't you find Tianyang unpleasant? Now, I have a plan. If you cooperate with me, maybe we can... Many voice transmissions were sent over, and Lu Qing was startled. He immediately thought that this might be a trap. However, when he saw Li Wenqing's sinister expression, Lu Qing suddenly reacted, and his lips curled into a sinister smile. If that's the case, we can talk about anything. While Li Wenqing and Lu Qing were secretly communicating, the huge space gate that represented the Northern Baron's secret territory had finally expanded to its limit. In the next moment, under the witness of countless people, the space gate was completely opened and activated. The surrounding space suddenly fluctuated. The space laws that even essence transformation realm experts could not touch were fluctuating. Tianyang squinted his eyes slightly. Then, he turned around and looked at the Northern Baron's secret territory that seemed to be on the other side of the space gate. The gate to the Northern Baron's secret territory has opened. At this moment, Elder Bai, who had reached the essence transformation realm, came in front of the crowd and announced loudly, "The people selected by each country can now enter the Northern Baron's secret territory." Hearing this, the young geniuses of each country in the Northern Baron region felt their blood boil. They could not control the true yuan in their bodies, and it was released. Then, with the young geniuses of Sky Moon Country taking the lead, countless geniuses jumped high and entered the space gate. On the side of the Arctic state, Tianyang nodded slightly to Ling Yuhan beside him. "Let's go." In the next moment, Tianyang and Ling Yuhan activated their movement skills and stepped into the space gate at the same time. A wave of space fluctuated, and Tianyang and Lu Qing arrived at the Northern Baron's secret territory at the same time. After a certain number of people had entered, the space gate that connected to the Northern Baron's secret territory slowly closed. It would only open again after 3 months. At the same time, in the Northern Baron's secret territory, Tianyang looked at the scene in front of him in amazement. Chapter 186. In the Northern Wilderness Secret Territory, Tianyang looked at the giant tree in front of him, his face flashing with surprise. There was no one beside him. The spatial power of the Northern Wilderness Secret Territory was stronger than Tianyang had expected. Therefore, Tianyang was still in a tragic situation. He was alone. However, Tianyang did not care about this. To him, it was better to be alone. It's the Fusang giant tree. I didn't expect the Fusang giant tree to exist in this small northern wilderness secret territory. Tianyang was a little surprised. There are not many things that could surprise him. The Tianji Sword Emperor from 10,000 years ago. However, the Fusang giant tree was one of them. The Fusang giant tree was said to be a divine tree in the Middle East. It contained endless sun power. In some myths and legends, the Fusang giant tree was the sun in the sky. Of course, this was just a myth. However, it was true that the Fusang giant tree had the power of the sun. It's a pity that the Fusang giant tree is broken. It will probably take tens of thousands of years or even hundreds of thousands of years before it can grow into a useful Fusang giant tree. Tianyang walked around the giant tree in front of him. He looked regretfully at the cross-section of the top of the tree that was barely healing. It was obvious that many years ago, an elite who was at least in the Dao Fire Realm had cut down the Fusang giant tree. Otherwise, Tianyang was confident that he could completely master the sunset swordsmanship and the third refining of the 9 refined dragon body with the power of the sun and the growing Fusang giant tree. However, although the Fusang giant tree is close to death, it is also showing signs of being reborn. The abundant spiritual qi in the northern wilderness secret territory is probably due to it. Tianyang smiled. Then his eyes suddenly moved and he stopped in his tracks. The true origin in Tianyang's body surged slightly. His eyes were completely focused on a blade of grass. The grass grew under the roots of the Fusang tree. It looked inconspicuous, but in Tianyang's eyes, this grass was almost more dazzling than the entire Fusang tree. This giant Fusang tree also gave birth to the 9 suns grass? Not bad, as expected of the great sun divine tree of Fusang. Tianyang exclaimed. The 9 suns grass contained the power of the 9 suns. It was a rare medicinal herb and a spiritual herb on the continent. If Tianyang wanted to enter the third tempering of the 9 tempering dragon body, he needed to strengthen the yin and yang in his body. Only then would he be able to complete the third tempering of the 9 tempering dragon body, the heavenly dragon body. The heavenly dragon body was the fusion of the earth dragon body and the flood dragon body. Once he successfully cultivated the heavenly dragon body, Tianyang wouldn't even need to worry about an origin transformation realm cultivator. Tianyang had only just stepped into the northern wilderness secret territory, but he had already found a spiritual herb that was extremely helpful for cultivating the heavenly dragon body, 9 sun grass. My luck is really not bad. Tianyang laughed lightly. He stretched out his hand, and the 9 sun grass, which seemed to have the imprint of the 9 suns, fell into his hand. Put down the 9 sun grass, and I will spare your life. At this moment, a loud shout came from his side. A sharp gust of wind with a strong sword chi flew towards Tianyang fiercely. Tianyang's soul power moved, and his eyes focused. The killing sword in his hand flashed and blocked the attack directly to the side. Bang! In an instant, the killing sword's sword chi and the incoming sword chi collided violently. Waves of strong chi exploded. Tianyang snorted coldly and used the dragon subduing steps. His body suddenly became illusory. His speed increased to the maximum, and Tianyang came directly in front of the attacker. What? Seeing this, the attacker's face changed. He raised the long sword in his hand. Tianyang sneered and circulated his true origin. Bang! The attacker's long sword could not block the terrifying impact of Tianyang's attack. Together with the sword, the attacker was directly smashed down by Tianyang's sword. With another loud bang, the man crashed into the ground. Indeed, the northern wilderness secret territory is full of opportunities and dangers. Tianyang looked at the person who was smashed into the ground and laughed lightly. He stretched out his hand, and the 9 sun grass that had fallen from the battle fell into his hand again. The attacker's eyes were fixed on the 9 sun grass in Tianyang's hand. Greed flashed in his eyes. Hand over the 9 sun grass, and I will spare your life. The attacker jumped up from the ground and looked greedily at the nine-sun grass in Tianyang's hand and sneered coldly. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows and laughed lightly. Loser, you still want to spare my life. You only succeeded in your sneak attack. Moreover, I'm a Clear Chi Realm Level 8 genius from the Snowfield country. How dare a Clear Chi Realm Level 6 trash talk to me like this? The attacker said disdainfully as he looked at Tianyang with disdain. Hearing this, Tianyang sighed. The Snowfield country had at most a Clear Chi Realm Level 8 cultivator. The Windy country was the same. As one of the three big countries in the northern wilderness region, the Snowfield country could easily produce a Clear Chi Realm Level 8 cultivator. The gap between them was truly huge. A treasure like the Nine Sun Grass is not something a Clear Chi Realm Level 6 trash like you can get your hands on. Hand it over obediently, and I will spare your life. The attacker looked down at the heavenly sun from above. The arrogance in his voice was completely exposed. Hearing this, Tianyang only smiled faintly. He had heard these words so many times that his ears were growing calluses. What if I don't hand it over? If you don't hand it over, then you can die. The attacker roared, and his Clear Chi Realm Level 8 inner yuan circulated rapidly. Low-class, dark-class movement technique, Thunder Shadow. That person's figure suddenly disappeared on the spot, and a series of electric arcs seemed to flash through the air. In the next second, that person appeared in front of Tianyang. Remember this. The person who will kill you is Feng Qing from the Snowfield country. The attacker, Feng Qing, laughed maniacally. Light gathered in his hand, and in the next moment he slashed out with his sword. High-class, dark-class sword technique, Thunder Sky Fury. It's the rarely seen lightning sword technique. Not bad. Seeing the lightning sword aura, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. Lightning did not belong to the gold, wood, water, fire, or earth elements, but it was equally powerful. This Thunder Sky Fury was of the lightning element, and its power was not to be underestimated. Furthermore, this person's Lightning Sky Fury had also reached the second stage of mastery. Tianyang smiled. Hearing this, Feng Qing's face was filled with rage. Die. However, in the next moment, Tianyang made his move. The long sword in his hand drew a beautiful arc in the air, and streaks of true chi gathered on the sword like real lightning. Under Feng Qing's incredulous gaze, Tianyang smiled. If it wasn't for you, I would have forgotten about the lightning element. Then Aurora Sword Technique, Modified Version, Thunder Instant Kill. Chapter 187. Aurora Swordsmanship, Modified Version, Instant Thunder Kill. Tianyang chuckled softly. The killing sword in his hand, which had gathered all kinds of lightning, suddenly burst forth with a bloody light. His murderous aura surged. Combined with the instant thunder kill that could crush Lei Tiansha, Feng Qing's attacks were instantly destroyed. After all, Feng Qing was only at the 8th level of the Bright Chi realm. He was weaker than the demonic crystal puppet. Tianyang could even defeat the demonic crystal puppet with one strike. Although there were some tricks involved, Tianyang's strength was not to be doubted. This Feng Qing actually dared to ridicule Tianyang as an ordinary cultivator at the 6th level of the Radiant Chi realm. It could only be said that this person was extremely stupid. How is this possible? The sword in his hand, which was a mid-grade artifact, even cracked. Seeing this, Feng Qing was incomparably shocked as he roared. Hearing this, Tianyang only smiled faintly. Nothing is impossible. Then, the instant thunder kill, which did not consume much energy, attacked again. Thunder Shadow. Feng Qing could clearly feel that this thunderbolt instant kill, whether it was in terms of speed or power, could instantly kill him. Therefore, Feng Qing hurriedly used his strongest movement technique. His previously arrogant face was now filled with fear. Not bad movement technique. There aren't many profound class movement techniques in this realm. Tianyang glanced at Feng Qing, who disappeared with a string of electric arcs. He chuckled. Unfortunately, if you think you can dodge my sword like this, then you're thinking too much. In the next moment, Tianyang used the dragon subduing steps. How could a profound class movement technique compare to the speed of an Earth class movement technique? Tianyang's speed was not at its peak, but it was already 10 times, no, 100 times faster than Feng Qing's. In the blink of an eye, the heavenly sun was right in front of Feng Qing. Bastard! Seeing the smiling face in front of him, Feng Qing's expression changed. He hurriedly channeled his true yuan and attacked. However, how could this random true yuan attack be Tianyang's match? The lightning attached to Thunderbolt Instant Kill automatically attacked and destroyed this move. Upon seeing this, Feng Qing was even more terrified. He shook his interspatial bag, and a talisman immediately appeared in his hand. Go to hell. Explosive talisman. Feng Qing roared and activated the talisman with his true essence. The talisman immediately burned and turned into a pile of ashes. However, before this, a terrifying attack filled with fire elemental true yuan exploded from the talisman. Boom! A terrifying explosion resounded through the sky. The talisman, which was full of explosive intent, had completely exhausted its true origin energy. However, before that, it had also engulfed Tianyang. Haha, this talisman of mine was bestowed to me by an elder of my clan. Even an expert at the 9th level of the enlightened Chi realm can be killed in an instant. You're just a trash at the 6th stage of the radiant Chi realm. How could you block my attack? Ha ha ha. The 9 Sun's grass is mine. Feng Qing landed on the ground. Ignoring his sorry state, he looked at the fireball that suddenly exploded in the sky and laughed wildly. However, at this moment, a leisurely voice could be heard from within the fireball. Something like an explosive talisman actually exists. How rare, but who told you that a talisman that can instantly kill a 9th level Radiant Chi Realm cultivator can definitely kill a 6th level Radiant Chi Realm cultivator? Tianyang's body stepped out from the fireball. His body shone brightly. Just now, he had activated his Flood Dragon body to the extreme. Tianyang's physical strength was comparable to a 1st level Origin Transformation Realm Magical Beast. Only his true essence was slightly inferior. Thus, against this explosive talisman, Tianyang did not even need to use his true essence. The so-called 9th level of the Radiant Chi Realm was nothing in front of the physical strength of the Origin Transformation Realm. How is this possible? Feng Qing was completely stunned. He looked at Tianyang, who was standing proudly in midair. You're just a trash at the 6th level of the Radiant Chi Realm. How could you block the explosive talisman? How could you walk in midair? Feng Qing roared. Hearing this, Tianyang raised an eyebrow. Only then did he realize that he was standing in midair. It's none of your business. Tianyang snorted. In a flash, he appeared in front of Feng Qing. The killing sword in his hand shone with a cold light as he pointed it at Feng Qing. It was just a stalk of 9 Suns grass. If the Fusang tree could nurture a stalk of 9 Suns grass, it could definitely nurture another stalk of 9 Suns grass. But this Feng Qing, after seeing it, wanted to kill him for the treasure. Those who kill will be killed. Tianyang would never show mercy to those who wanted to kill him. Feeling the cold, killing intent from the killing sword, Feng Qing's face changed completely. Just as he was about to activate his true essence, Tianyang had already sealed off all his escape routes. What are you trying to do? Feng Qing was terrified. His body fell to the ground unconsciously. His face was pale as he looked at Tianyang, whose back was facing the sun and whose eyes were filled with killing intent. Do you still need to say it? Hearing this, Tianyang smiled brightly. Of course it's to kill you. No, you can't kill me. I'm the 3rd young master of the Feng family, the 3rd most powerful family in Snow Wilderness. This time, the strongest clear Chi realm cultivator from Snow Wilderness is my elder brother. If you kill me, my elder brother will not let you go. The Feng family will not let you go either. Feng Qing roared. Then, looking at Tianyang's face, a sinister smile appeared on his face. And it's not just you. Even your family, your lover, your grandfather, grandmother, father, and mother will die. The power of the Feng family is not something a useless clear Chi realm cultivator like you can imagine. That's enough. Die. A cold voice that seemed to come from the depths of hell entered Feng Qing's ears. In the next moment, an extremely sharp sword light pierced through Feng Qing's forehead. Tianyang's face was extremely cold. Looking at the stunned Feng Qing, he snorted, took Feng Qing's space bag, and left. Family was Tianyang's reverse scale. Tianyang did not have much affection for the Tian family. However, that did not mean that Tianyang did not care about the Tian family. Furthermore, his parents. In his previous life, Tianyang was an orphan. He grew up in a garbage dump and went through hardships to become a great emperor. His parents, whom he had never met, were also a thorn in Tianyang's side. Now that he had reincarnated, the parents of his body were also missing. They only left a name for Tianyang to remember. In both lives, he had no parents. Now, Feng Qing was using his parents to threaten Tianyang. How could Tianyang not be angry? The anger of the Sword Emperor could destroy heaven and earth. If it weren't for the fact that the heavenly sun was able to restrain it, the Northern Wilderness secret realm would have been destroyed. After all, the soul of a peak ascension realm cultivator was more than enough to destroy the entire Northern Wilderness. Chapter 188. After killing Feng Qing and collecting the spiritual herbs around the Fusang tree, Tianyang left the place. The Fusang tree was known as the Divine Sun Tree. However, it was close to death and was trying its best to be reborn. The Divine Sun power in its body was naturally very little. Although Tianyang wanted to help the Fusang giant tree, he hadn't seen much of it in his previous life, so he didn't know what to do. Therefore, Tianyang could only help it by injecting some true yuan into it, and then left. No one knew that Feng Qing, the third young master of the Feng family, had died here. The Northern Wilderness secret territory was vast and boundless. This area was not much smaller than the Blizzard State. It was almost 2/3 of the size of the Blizzard State. He did not know how the seniors from the Northern Wilderness region found such a huge space 10,000 years ago. Their luck was ridiculously strong. Other than the 9 suns grass, there's also the 6 suns flower, the divine sun fruit. All the Yang's spiritual herbs needed to cultivate the heavenly dragon body are almost complete. Tianyang muttered. He turned around and glanced at the Fusang tree that had already disappeared into the vast mountain range with a smile. Although it doesn't have intelligence, thank you very much. If these spiritual herbs that the Fusang tree had nurtured were released outside, it would definitely cause countless essence transformation realm experts to kill each other. It might even attract Dao fire realm experts. However, in this Northern Wilderness secret territory that had changed 300 years ago, only those in the Bright Chi realm could enter. These extremely valuable Yang attribute spirit herbs and spirit medicines could only be given to Heavenly Yang. Speaking of which, the Blizzard State is indeed one of the 3 strongest countries in the Northern Wilderness region. To the Blizzard State, this map is extremely precious. Everyone in the Blizzard State has a copy. The level of detail is even greater than the one I have. Tianyang sighed. He did not expect Feng Qing's family to be so rich. Not to mention the 70,000 lower spiritual stones, there was also a series of lower and middle treasured weapons. There was even an earth-grade martial technique. That martial skill was called the Black Wind Sword Technique. Its power was slightly weaker than the Sunset Sword Technique. However, looking at the note left by Feng Qing, it seemed that he himself had not succeeded in cultivating it. Well, it won't be too late to count those things after we get out. Right now, I have to study this map. Tianyang smiled and lowered his head to look at the map of snow wilderness that he had received from the Feng family. Exploring the Northern Wilderness secret territory would not be like a headless fly. Every country in the Northern Wilderness region had their own map of the Northern Wilderness secret territory. However, as a weak country, the geniuses that the Arctic nations sent out were not strong. Naturally, it was impossible for them to explore a large area. The map of the Northern Barren Territory was also very simple. Being teleported to a remote place like Tianyang, he could not even locate himself. However, the one he got from Feng Qing was different. So this mountain range is called the Giant Sun Mountain Range. That's right, even a great sun divine tree like the Fusang tree is rooted here. The yang attribute aura here is also very abundant. No wonder it's called the Giant Sun Mountain Range. Tianyang smiled and then pointed at the map with his finger. He immediately found his target. If there's the Giant Sun Mountain Range, then there's the Yin Moon Mountain Range. I've already found all the yang attribute treasures. With the dragon chi from the dragon pearl in my body, I should be able to cultivate to the third refining of the heavenly dragon body. Then, the only thing I'm missing is the Yin attribute treasures. This Yin Moon Mountain Range is just what I want. Tianyang smiled and then chose a direction. He used the air step secret skill and flew towards it. According to the map, there was a relic from a primordial transformation realm elite in the Yin Moon Mountain Range. This primordial transformation realm elite had the strength of a 7th level primordial transformation realm elite. He was also the one who explored the Yin Moon Mountain Range the most. If he wanted to find the Yin attribute treasures, going to the relic would be the best choice. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the northern wilderness secret territory is so abundant. I just broken through to the peak of the 4th level bright chi realm, and now I'm half a step to the 5th level. Ling Yuhan was shocked as she looked at the spiritual chi of heaven and earth around her. Looking at her aura, Ling Yuhan had already reached half a step to the 5th level bright chi realm. In addition to the Ice Emperor's Heaven Sword skill and Sea of Chi, Ling Yuhan's combat strength was comparable to the geniuses of the 7th or 8th level bright chi realm in other countries. If she activated the 9 Nether Saint body that shocked even Tianyang, Ling Yuhan's combat strength would be comparable to Tianyang's. Oh, there's such a beauty here, and she's only half a step to the 5th level bright chi realm. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared on a tree. It was a man with a feminine face. He looked at Ling Yuhan lustfully, and the true origin in his body was restless. Little girl, come with me, and I'll let you do whatever you want in the northern wilderness secret territory. Of course, before that, you'll have to satisfy me first, noisy. Ling Yuhan snorted coldly. A light flashed in her hand, and the dark ice sword appeared. Hearing this, the feminine man's face suddenly turned cold. Since you refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit, then don't blame me for this. The taste of a struggling, beautiful girl is the most, before the feminine man could finish his sentence. Ling Yuhan's face suddenly became extremely cold, and the dark ice sword in her hand shone brightly. Ice Emperor's Heaven Sword skill, First Sword. In an instant, an icy blue sword light that could freeze everything shot out from the profound ice sword. Before the feminine man could react, the sword light pierced through his heart. In the next moment, even his soul was frozen by this extreme cold. Break! Ling Yuhan shouted in a low voice. The true origin in her body moved, and the ice that froze the feminine man immediately turned into ice dust. Along with it, the feminine man also turned into ice shards that filled the sky, completely dead. One sword, and it was just one sword. Ling Yuhan had killed this feminine man who had reached the early stage of the 7th level of the Bright Chi realm. The Northern Wilderness secret territory is indeed full of danger. It seems that I should find a place to meet up with Master. Turning around, Ling Yuhan muttered to himself. When he mentioned the heavenly sun, his ice-cold face that was like an ancient, profound ice suddenly melted. A sweet smile appeared on Ling Yuhan's face. After that, Ling Yuhan confirmed his target on the map. Let's go to the Inuan Mountain. In another part of the Northern Wilderness secret territory. You? Who are you? I am the genius of the Iskang Kingdom. If I die, the Iskang Kingdom will not let you off. A young man at the Bright Chi realm of level 8 looked at the Bright Chi realm in front of him in disbelief. His cultivation was 1 level lower than him, but he was able to force him into a corner. Hearing this, the young man in black smiled evilly. The one I killed is the genius of the Northern Wilderness region. Chapter 189. The Inuan Mountain Range was vast and boundless. Opposite the giant Sun Mountain Range was the east and the west of the Northern Wilderness secret territory. The giant Sun Mountain Range was in the east, while the Inuan Mountain Range was in the west. Between the two mountains was a boundless plain. The most northern part of the plain was the location of the Northern Wilderness Secret Territory's greatest opportunity, the 9 Steps to Heaven. However, the 9 Steps to Heaven would only appear in the last 3 days. Tianyang did not need to worry about it now. This is the Inuim mountain range. From the Giant Sun Mountain Range to the Inuim Mountain Range, it almost crossed the entire Northern Wilderness Secret Territory. However, Tianyang, who had cultivated the air-stepping secret skill, only spent a few hours to reach the Inuim mountain range. Tianyang stood in the air and looked at the dark mountain range in the distance. He had not officially entered the Inuim mountain range, but he could tell. The Inuim mountain range was indeed filled with Een attribute energy. With such a large amount of Een attribute energy, there must be many Een attribute treasures. There must be many Een attribute treasures in the cave left behind by the primordial transformation stage cultivator who had explored the Inuim mountain range for 2 months. Tianyang chuckled. Then his body flashed, and he stepped into the Inuim mountain range. As soon as his feet touched the ground of the Inuim mountain range, Tianyang felt a gust of cold air rushing towards him. It was as if a boundless chill rose from the bottom of his feet and rushed to the top of his head. However, as soon as Tianyang's blood qi circulated in his body, this gust of cold air was completely dispelled. In front of Tianyang's flood dragon body, this level of cold air and heat air could not affect him at all. However, for others, as long as they stepped into the Giant Sun Mountain Range or the Inuim Mountain Range, their bodies would be affected by the cold air and heat air. If they stayed for too long, they might even be injured. Even a primordial transformation stage cultivator would not be able to stay in these 2 mountains for a month at a time. This showed how powerful the primordial transformation stage cultivator who had explored the Inuim mountain range for 2 months was. That origin transformation realm expert was known as the Bright Moon Cultivator. After he went out, he practiced a special martial skill that he obtained from the Northern Desolate Mystery Realm and rose to power. Originally, he was only at the first level of the Origin Transformation Realm. After the trip to the Northern Wilderness Secret Territory, he advanced to the Tao Fire Realm by leaps and bounds. He even has the chance to break through to the 2nd level of the Tao Fire Realm. The fortune of this How You cultivator is indeed extraordinary. The cave dwelling he left behind shouldn't be too bad, Tianyang said softly. On the map in his hand, there was also a record of this How You immortal cave. Since the owner of the cave mansion was so strong, the opportunities inside must be great. It's in the north, close to the core. Let's go, Tianyang muttered in a low voice. Subsequently, he executed the sky-treading secret art and fiercely flew towards How Yu's abode with a terrifying speed that even a first-level origin transformation stage expert would be unable to catch up to. In other places, countless people had already made their way to the Bright Moon Cave. After all, the Bright Moon Cultivator was one of the most powerful cultivators in the history of the Northern Wilderness region. The cave dwelling he left behind, even if it was left behind when he was at the origin transformation stage, would definitely not be too bad. After all, the Bright Moon Cultivator had obtained a great opportunity in the Northern Wilderness Secret Territory. After flying for another 10 minutes, Tianyang finally saw the cave dwelling that was located in the north of the Inuim mountain range, close to the core. The cave dwelling was white and bright. It was out of place in the dark mountain range and was extremely conspicuous. Subsequently, Tianyang squinted his eyes. A ray of light pierced through the air, and he saw that many cultivators had already gathered in front of How Yu's cave dwelling. Looks like there's more than one person who wants to break into this cave dwelling. Tianyang chuckled. Subsequently, he deactivated the sky-treading secret art and slowly landed in an inconspicuous place. The sky-treading secret art was one of his trump cards. If others knew about it, it would inevitably cause some trouble. Subsequently, Tianyang stepped into a small basin where How Yu's cave dwelling was located. In front of How Yu's cave dwelling, Li Wenqing's expression suddenly froze. The true yuan in his body fluctuated slightly, and his expression changed abruptly. He turned his head and saw the youth that he did not want to see the most walking towards him slowly. Damn it! This Tianyang, why is he here too? How could a country bumpkin like him know the location of Hao Yu's cave dwelling? Li Wenqing stared at Tianyang, the veins on his forehead bulging. He did not expect that Tianyang would appear in front of him at this time. One had to know that although he had reached an agreement with Lu Qing, the strongest genius of Heavenly Wind Nation, due to the special characteristics of a northern wilderness secret territory, Lu Qing was not here. Oh, isn't this the first young master of the Li family? As for Tianyang, when he saw Li Wenqing staring at him, the corners of his mouth curled into a slight arc as he walked over. Seeing Tianyang walk over, Li Wenqing's hair stood on end, and he took a few steps back. It was obvious that he was afraid. When he was at the peak of the 5th level of the Bright Chi realm, he was able to kill the magic crystal puppet with a single strike. Now that he was at the 6th level of the Bright Chi realm, how could he be compared to someone at the 7th level of the Bright Chi realm? How could he compete with him? If not, the arrogant Li Wenqing would not have needed to find Lu Qing from Heavenly Wind Nation. What? You don't like me? Seeing Li Wenqing take a few steps back, Tianyang's eyes narrowed into a thin line as he laughed. Hearing this, Li Wenqing trembled once again. He looked around and saw that there were many people around. However, everyone only watched quietly, watching the fire burning across the river. Some people even acted as if nothing had happened, and were even chatting and laughing with others. In the northern wilderness secret territory, there were too many fights and fights. Even if they saw it, they would not care. Seeing Tianyang approaching step by step, Li Wenqing's face was filled with fear again. He screamed madly in his heart. Didn't they agree to meet at the Hao Yu cave mansion? Now that he was about to be killed by Tianyang, why was Lu Qing still not here? Kid, you really have guts. How dare you touch my people? At this moment, a shout came from his side. Lu Qing, who was wearing a low-grade artifact, came directly in front of Tianyang. Hearing this, Li Wenqing's face showed a glimmer of hope. Lu Qing is here. Thinking of this, the fear on Li Wenqing's face disappeared. He looked at Tianyang with hatred and hid behind Lu Qing. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. TSK, the young master of the Li family from Snowy Wind Nation, has become a lackey of Lu Qing from Heavenly Wind Nation. This move is good. Tianyang laughed lightly. Hearing this, Li Wenqing's face turned ugly, and Lu Qing's face was even uglier. Since that is the case, I will let you two be arrogant for a while. Chapter 190. This Tianyang is so weak, yet he dares to be so arrogant in front of me. If it wasn't for the Hao Yu cave mansion, I would have killed him right now, Lu Qing said coldly. Li Wenqing, who had just relaxed after seeing Tianyang leave, immediately jumped out. That's right. This Tianyang is so arrogant because he has some strength. He doesn't know that his weak strength is nothing in front of Master Lu Qing. Li Wenqing said flatteringly. Hearing this, Lu Qing obviously enjoyed it. He nodded and sneered. However, this Tianyang can only be arrogant for a little while longer. Now, I'm a person who owns a high-grade treasure armor. A mere clear chi realm level 6 trash dares to be arrogant in front of me? You're asking for death. Lu Qing coldly snorted. Hearing this, Li Wenqing nodded again and continued to flatter. Tianyang did not expect Li Wenqing to be so servile. He had spent 50,000 low-grade spiritual stones to buy the upper-grade precious armor, but he gave it to Lu Qing just like that. However, even if he had expected it, he would not have cared. A clear chi realm level 8 martial artist was like an ant in front of a level 1 yuan transformation martial artist. Even with an upper-grade precious armor, he was still an ant. And Tianyang could fight against a level 1 yuan transformation martial artist. At the side, a young man in black looked at the scene and sneered. He turned his head away. The others saw that there was no battle, so they all turned their heads and stared at the closed door of the cave mansion. The conditions to open the Hao Yu cave mansion were simple. The northern wilderness secret territory only needed to be open for one day. Today, one day had arrived. At the moment when the day was up, the Hao Yu cave mansion suddenly exploded with an endless amount of pressure, The terrifying aura of at least the fifth level of the origin transformation stage swept out. Everyone couldn't help but shrink a little. Even Lu Qing, who was wearing a high-grade artifact, the Gale armor, could only crawl in front of this aura. In Heaven Continent, the strong were respected. Just the pressure alone was enough to cause all of these geniuses to prostrate themselves on the ground. Their master was no longer here, and might even be dead. Only Tianyang was still standing proudly in the entire place. He looked indifferently at Hao Yu's cave dwelling, which was emitting boundless pressure. You want to make the Tianji Sword Emperor crawl? Ridiculous. Even a god could not do that. This pressure came and went quickly. In just a few seconds, it was as if it had finished venting and completely disappeared. Then, in front of the door of the Hao Yu cave mansion, rays of blue and white light shot out. In the blink of an eye, countless rays of light enveloping the entire place. The cold and gloomy air in the surroundings was swept away, and the white and bright cave dwelling was also covered by a layer of moonlight light. Just by bathing in the baptism of this light beam, everyone felt as if the true essence in their bodies had become much purer in an instant. This was a powerful martial artist of the Yuan realm. Look, the Hao Yu cave mansion is about to open. At this moment, the sharp-eyed people immediately noticed the small crack on the door. Then, under the unblinking gazes of the crowd, the crack rapidly expanded. Soon, the entire door was completely open. "Charge!" a person roared. In the next moment, dozens of geniuses gathered in front of the Hao Yu cave mansion rushed in. There are many opportunities in the Hao Yu cave mansion. Legend has it that the Hao Yu cultivator who had reached the Dao Fire realm came back once. We can't fall behind in this Hao Yu cave mansion. On the side, two cultivators who had reached the level 8 Bright Chi realm looked at each other and immediately burst out with extreme speed. Using their movement techniques, they rushed out like a gust of wind. Everyone used their strongest movement techniques. Even Li Wenqing and Lu Qing, who were eager to kill Tianyang, were no exception. 1 second after the door completely opened, they rushed in. 10 seconds later, only Tianyang and the mysterious black-clothed youth were left in front of the door. You're really patient." The black-clothed youth looked at Tianyang contemptuously and then rushed in as well. Hearing this, Tianyang chuckled and walked in at a leisurely pace. It was as if he was taking a stroll in his own yard. Then, there was no one outside the Hao Yu cave mansion. The Hao Yu cave mansion is the most powerful relic in the northern wilderness secret territory that has been explored. It seems like it's true. Lu Qing and Li Wenqing stood where they were, feeling the rich and gentle Yin energy around them. Even the violent Yin spiritual chi of heaven and earth outside is like a kitten here. I have a feeling that as long as I absorb it myself, my absorption speed will definitely increase by a few levels. Lu Qing said in shock. Hearing this, Li Wenqing nodded and then looked at the door behind him. This Tianyang, could it be that he's afraid of us and the dangers in the Hao Yu cave mansion, so he doesn't want to come in? Li Wenqing sneered. In his opinion, a clear Chi realm level 8 cultivator with a Gale armor, the number 1 genius of Windy Nation, could definitely kill Tianyang. Since that was the case, Tianyang must have known this. Maybe he was really afraid and didn't dare to come in. If he doesn't want to come, then so be it. If he's afraid of the dangers in the cave mansion, then his martial heart is a piece of trash. I don't even need to do anything to trash. Lu Qing sneered. At this moment, Tianyang's soft laughter came from a door. I was kind enough to let you feel the fresh air in the Hao Yu cave mansion before you die, so that you can experience the beauty of life. I didn't expect you to really want to seek refuge with the king of hell so soon. Following the laughter, Tianyang's skinny figure entered their line of sight. Hearing those words, Li Wenqing and Lu Qing's expressions both turned ugly. Then, as they looked to Tianyang, who was all alone, without any helpers, Lu Qing sneered. I thought you were so arrogant because you had some helpers. I didn't expect you to be so arrogant just by yourself. Lu Qing smiled as he looked at Tianyang with a greedy glint in his eyes. According to Li Wenqing, Tianyang was just a piece of trash who awakened a low-grade yellow ranked martial spirit, but he was able to grow to such an extent. In other words, Tianyang definitely had a lot of treasures on him. Therefore, Lu Qing, who only wanted to punish Tianyang, agreed to Li Wenqing's plan to kill Tianyang in the northern desolate secret realm. Soul Barrier. At the spur of the moment, Lu Qing shouted, and a gorgeous light flew out from his interspatial bag. The brilliant light fell, and this small space was immediately covered by a barrier. With this soul enchantment, no one will be able to know what happens inside. Even if you die, no one can avenge you. Li Wenqing laughed wildly, and so did Lu Qing. From their point of view, Tianyang, who was trapped in the soul barrier with only the three of them, was already a dead man. Soul barrier? Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows, and then the corner of his mouth curled up into a smile. What's that saying again? Sins committed by the heavens can be forgiven, but sins committed by oneself are the hardest to bear. Tianyang sighed, and then unsheathed his killing sword. Chapter 191. How dare you be so arrogant when you're about to die? Hearing this, Lu Qing's face suddenly turned ugly. The next moment, he unsheathed his long saber and looked coldly at Tianyang. Die! Then, Lu Qing's figure moved and immediately charged at Heavenly Sun. Tianyang chuckled. Someone who's about to die? I'm afraid not. Then he used the Earth-class movement technique, Dragon Subduing Steps. Tianyang's body turned illusory, and he appeared in front of Li Wenqing at lightning speed. What? Li Wenqing's face turned pale when he saw Tianyang easily pass by Lu Qing and appear in front of him. How can you be so fast? You talk too much. Take this. Tianyang roared, and the killing sword in his hand glowed brightly. Flowing Cloud Sword Technique, sword emerging from flowing cloud. A cloud-like sword radiance burst out. The flowing Cloud Sword Technique had been upgraded to the Mystic class Peerless grade. Its power was almost on par with the instant thunder kill that killed Feng Qing. Damn it! How can this Tianyang be so strong? Li Wenqing's expression changed when he saw the sword radiance. He gathered his true origin energy in his hand. Crimson Killing Fist. Then, a blood-red radiance burst out from Li Wenqing's hand and collided with the sword emerging from flowing cloud. Boom! A terrifying explosion resounded throughout the entire soul barrier. At this time, Lu Qing discovered that the Heavenly Sun had already swept past him and was charging towards Li Wenqing. How dare you ignore me? Damn you, kid! Lu Qing roared and was about to turn around to attack. However, at this moment, a terrifying shockwave burst out. Lu Qing stopped in his tracks. However, Li Wenqing's Crimson Killing Fist had been shattered by the Flowing Cloud Sword Technique. The sword radiance also landed on Li Wenqing's body. Li Wenqing spat out blood and flew backward like a kite with a broken string. He landed heavily on the soul barrier, and his aura was extremely weak. Damn it! Seeing that Tianyang had severely injured Li Wenqing with just one sword, Lu Qing's face suddenly turned ugly. Li Wenqing was now his underling. But in front of him, this trash with only a low-grade yellow ranked martial spirit and a cultivation of the 6th level of the Bright Chi realm was able to seriously injure his underling. This was simply a silent and ruthless slap to his face. Martial Soul, Blood Python. Lu Qing roared. The next moment, an incomparably solid blood-colored python appeared behind him. With the appearance of this python, Lu Qing's aura suddenly soared to the extreme. The martial spirit was a martial artist's trump card. Once it was used, one's battle prowess would definitely skyrocket. Earth-tier low-grade martial skill, Mad Python Tornado. Lu Qing roared, and the long saber in his hand flashed with a bloody light. Streaks of blood-colored saber light slashed out, forming a saber light storm like a destructive tornado. Wherever it passed, the ground was torn apart and the air exploded. A terrifying pressure burst out from the Mad Python Tornado. Seeing this, the heavily injured Li Wenqing revealed a glimmer of hope. Lord Lu Qing has made his move. He even used his martial soul. Tianyang is dead for sure this time. It's actually close to a high-grade mystic ranked martial spirit. Not bad. There are indeed many good things to eat in a big place. Seeing this blood-colored python, Tianyang's eyebrows twitched. This blood python was the strongest martial spirit of a younger generation he had seen so far. Martial soul, sand scorpion. Behind Tianyang, Li Wenqing forcefully overcame the pain and unleashed his martial soul with all his might. A highly poisonous sand scorpion appeared in Li Wenqing's hand. It was small, but it was fatal. This martial soul had also reached the mid-grade mystic ranked martial spirit. Go for me, Li Wenqing roared. The small sand scorpion immediately rushed out and ruthlessly attacked Tianyang. Previously, there was Lu Qing's low-grade earth-ranked martial skill, Mad Python Tornado, which was fused with a mid-grade mystic-ranked martial spirit. After that, there was Li Wenqing's mid-grade mystic-ranked highly poisonous martial spirit, Sand Scorpion. For a moment, Tianyang was attacked from both sides. Seeing this, Tianyang's eyebrows twitched and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. Since you can't wait to deliver food to me, then I won't be polite. Heavenly sword, come out, Tianyang roared. In his soul sea, the heavenly sword, which had been silent for a long time, appeared once again. A resplendent light appeared within the killing sword. Under the continuous tempering of the brilliant gold sword, the killing sword, which was infinitely close to being a high-grade artifact, shone brightly once again. After the heavenly sword broke through to a low-grade mystic-ranked martial spirit, Tianyang didn't have the opportunity to use it. After all, among the younger generation of the Snow Gale State, there was almost no one who could match him. No matter who he met, he would be defeated instantly. Since that was the case, why would he still need a martial spirit? But now, under the pincer attack of Li Wenqing and Lu Qing, Tianyang was finally forced to use the heavenly sword. What is that? The moment the heavenly sword appeared, an extremely wild and boundless pressure exploded from Tianyang's body. The moment he held the heavenly sword, Lu Qing even had an illusion. What he was facing was not a bright Qi realm cultivator at the 6th level, but an unparalleled emperor who could pierce through heaven and earth. Just a gaze, a trace of aura, was enough to make him tremble. With the heavenly sword in hand, the Tianji Sword Emperor was the real Tianji Sword Emperor. The might of a sword emperor with every movement, shattering the heavens and splitting the earth. At this moment, Tianyang used the void-treading secret technique and stood proudly in mid-air, facing 2 tyrannical attacks that were enough to kill an ordinary 8th-level Bright Qi Realm cultivator. Tianyang was calm and indifferent. Endless power exuded from his body. The brilliant Xingguang appeared. The heavenly sword in his hand bloomed with boundless sharpness. At this moment, Tianyang was like a supreme young god. What tricks are you playing now? Lu Qing gritted his teeth and stared at the proud Tianyang. Like a crazy demon, he roared, "Wild Python Whirlwind, Wild Python Storm." The blood python behind him completely exploded. At this moment, Li Wenqing also felt a fatal threat and pushed the true Yuan in his body to the extreme. Sand Scorpion, poison him to death. Lu Qing and Li Wenqing, in front of Tianyang, who had activated his martial spirit, felt a life-threatening threat. No matter what, they had to kill Tianyang. But even so, could they do it? Ha! A light laugh came from Tianyang's mouth. Tianyang's eyes flashed. In the next moment, the heavenly sword in his hand was slowly raised. The 600 feet sea of Qi boiled, and the flood dragon body crazily operated. Specks of starlight quickly condensed on the heavenly sword. Heavenly sword art, first sword. Heavenly sword. Tianyang's lips moved slightly. In the next moment, a sword light that seemed to be able to sweep away everything in the world enveloped the entire soul enchantment. Boom! Lu Qing and Li Wenqing used their ultimate move. In a short moment. Chapter 192. Boom! A terrifying explosion resounded through the entire soul barrier. This was a barrier that could even block a 3rd-level origin transformation cultivator. Under Tianyang's sword, it actually trembled violently, as if it was about to be chopped into pieces. Ah, whether it was the Earth-class low-grade martial skill Mad Python Tornado or the Mystic-class mid-grade martial spirit Sand Scorpion, under Tianyang's Sky Sword Art, only destruction awaited. Lu Qing and Li Wenqing spat out mouthfuls of blood as they were sent flying by the terrifying sword aura. On their chests, a deep wound extended from their necks all the way to their abdomens. Blood spurted out crazily. If this continued, even if Tianyang didn't do anything, these two people would die from excessive blood loss in a few minutes. However, in the next moment, a wave of sword aura landed heavily on their bodies. In an instant, the two people's bodies trembled once again. A mouthful of blood, mixed with crushed internal organs, was spat out. Lu Qing and Li Wenqing's aura instantly weakened to the extreme. Their faces were pale, and they couldn't even stand properly. Their Dantian Sea of Qi was broken, and their true Yuan was constantly flowing out. At this moment, they couldn't even open the interspatial bags at their waists. Damn it, Lu Qing was at the 8th level of the Bright Qi realm. Even though he was on the verge of death, he could still open his eyes and speak. He glared at Tianyang and spat out 2 words. Following that, a large amount of blood spurted out. "Little bastard, give me the pills. Heal me," Lu Qing roared, ignoring the blood spurting out of his mouth. If this continued, he would definitely die from excessive blood loss. That kind of pain was unbearable even for someone with a strong will, not to mention Li Wenqing and Lu Qing, these two geniuses who had been pampered since young. Oh, hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. It was Tianyang's first time seeing an enemy heal him when he was about to die. "If you don't give me the pills, cough cough, the windy nation behind me will definitely not let you off. How can a small windy nation block my windy nation? At that time, your wife, family, friends, and sect will all die." Lu Qing roared, and the vitality within his body rapidly flowed away. Next, a trace of panic appeared on Lu Qing's face. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled. "I thought that you would have a brilliant theory with your astonishing words. I didn't expect it to be this lousy toy. Well then, seeing that you have such a low IQ, I'll give you this little thing." Tianyang chuckled. With a flick of his finger, a silver light flew towards Lu Qing. Hearing this, a ferocious look appeared on Lu Qing's face. "I knew it. In front of the Windy Nation, you little what did you do?" Before Lu Qing could finish speaking, he felt the terrifying pain from his wound become countless times more intense. Previously, he had been able to force himself to say a few words. But now, Lu Qing couldn't help but want to commit suicide. However, he had lost a lot of blood, and his Dantian Sea of Qi was shattered. He couldn't even lift his hand. How could he commit suicide? All over his body, it was as if every cell and every neuron was being torn apart in the cruelest and most bloody way. Lu Qing even felt that even when he breathed, he could feel the terrifying pain of being torn apart. The next moment, Lu Qing's face twisted. His broken body, which could barely sit up, fell down and wriggled like a big worm, as if this could alleviate his pain. However, it was useless. On the contrary, this little friction brought him endless pain again. As soon as Lu Qing opened his mouth, he felt the impact of the dust hitting his mouth. For some reason, the impact was magnified countless times. Even the dust could bring him endless pain. "It's nothing." Tianyang smiled. "It just activated all the nerves in your body. Now you're very sensitive to any stimulation. Look, the wound on your chest is so big. It must be very stimulating. Does it feel good?" Tianyang smiled. However, this smile, in Lu Qing's eyes, was like the smile of the Grim Reaper. No, it was even colder and crueler than the Grim Reaper. Even the Grim Reaper only took his life. Tianyang, while taking his life, tortured everything he had. "Kill me," Lu Qing said hoarsely. He didn't dare to open his mouth too much. He was afraid that something sharper than the dust would rush into his body. The pain, which was magnified countless times, had stimulated his brain to the point that nothing was left. His previous arrogance were gone. "Sorry, I don't intend to dirty my sword." Tianyang smiled. Then, he pointed to Li Wenqing, who had already stopped breathing. Look how lucky he is. He didn't talk so much nonsense like you. So, it didn't take long for him to meet the king of hell. As for you, I think you still need 1 or 2 minutes. Tianyang smiled. The sky cloud, sword in his hand, shone brightly. When the sword broke the two's killing blow, the sky cloud sword had already devoured the two's martial spirits. However, their martial spirits had not reached the high-grade mystic rank. After the sky cloud sword had devoured their martial spirits, it was still a little bit away from reaching the mid-grade mystic rank. However, this little bit was extremely small. As long as Tianyang killed one more person, even if he was only at the low-grade yellow rank, he would be able to break through. However, for martial spirit that had not advanced, no matter how much martial spirit energy it absorbed, its power would not change much. However, in the battle just now, after enduring the tempering of the brilliant gold sword stone and being possessed by the sky cloud sword, the killing sword had finally broken through. From a mid-grade artifact, it had become a half-step high-grade artifact. Its power had increased greatly. Thinking of this, Tianyang's lips curled up into a smile. Looking at Lu Qing, who had fallen to the ground and was only breathing out, Tianyang understood that he was not far from death. After taking the 2 space bags and taking out the things that were useful to him, Tianyang came to the front of the soul enchantment barrier. You want to trap me with this lousy thing? Looking at the invisible soul enchantment barrier that was obstructing him, Tianyang sneered and punched out. The soul enchantment barrier shattered. At this moment, Lu Qing, who was on his last breath, widened his eyes and looked at the scene in disbelief. Then he breathed out his last breath. He died with remaining grievances. The strongest genius of the Heavenly Wind Nation, Lu Qing, the son of the Leaf family of the Snow Wind Royal City, Li Wenqing, was dead. Chapter 193. Inside the Haoyu Cave. Because of Lu Qing's self-inflicted soul enchantment, no one knew about the shocking battle that took place at the entrance of the Haoyu Cave. At this moment, inside the Haoyu Cave, those who had rushed into the Haoyu Cave had all stopped. In front of them, there was a huge pool and a wooden bridge. These 2 small things blocked everyone's path. These geniuses, who were at least at the 7th level of the Bright Chi realm, were all frowning as they stared into the distance. Legend has it that there are 5 tests in the Haoyu Cave, but the first one is already so difficult. In this pool, there are Bright Chi realm demonic beasts in the Inu mountain range. To cross this bridge safely is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. That person murmured. Hearing this, the people beside him nodded with a bitter face. Previously, there was a person who was not afraid of death. Even though he knew that there were Bright Chi realm demonic beasts here, he still stepped onto the wooden bridge. At the beginning of the 50 meters, nothing happened. Everyone thought that the wooden bridge was easy to cross. But who would have thought that just as they crossed the 50-meter line, 2 Bright Chi realm demonic beasts attacked them from the left and right. That person was directly devoured by the demonic beasts without leaving behind a corpse. With this person as an example, no one dared to cross the bridge. But it was impossible for them to give up the opportunity in the Haoyu Cave. Therefore, the situation of the thousands of soldiers and horses being blocked by a single wooden bridge appeared. At this moment, the sound of footsteps could be heard. The face of the black-clothed youth at the front changed, and he turned his head to look. He saw that the only person he could not see through, the youth, was walking over. There's actually someone else? At this moment, the others also heard the footsteps and turned to look. Seeing that it was only a youth, they could not help but be disappointed. The black-clothed youth looked deeply at Tianyang, and then continued to look at the pool and the wooden bridge. He knew that previously, Tianyang had a conflict with a Bright Chi realm demonic beasts at the 8th and 7th level. If not for the opening of the Haoyu Cave, the 3 of them would have killed each other. After the opening of the Haoyu Cave, the 3 of them disappeared. Now, one of them had appeared. What about the other 2? Thinking of this, the black-clothed youth shuddered. That was a combination of Bright Chi realm demonic beasts at the 8th and 7th level. Could it be that this Bright Chi realm demonic beasts at the 6th level could kill 2 of them? There's actually such a person in this small northern wilderness region. The black-clothed young man murmured. If others were to hear this, they would definitely be incomparably shocked. This person was actually not from the northern wilderness region. At the UUU cave, the pool UU Spirit Lake, the UUU cave, UUU cave. The pond was called the Bright Moon Spiritual Pond. However, it was not a pond used for cultivation like the Dragon Transformation Pond. Instead, it was used for testing. The wooden bridge did not have a name, but if one wanted to obtain the first opportunity of the Hau cave, one had to cross the bridge. Within the cave, there were even Bright Chi realm demonic beasts. The strongest among these people was only at the 8th level. Facing an attack from a Bright Chi realm demonic beast, only death awaited them. If I use the void-treading secret technique, I can easily pass this stage. Arriving at the spacious cave, Tianyang's eyes shone brightly. His gaze seemed to see through the dark blue water of the cave. He saw the demonic beast puppets lurking at the bottom of the cave, waiting for someone to invade their territory and attack them. It's actually a demonic crystal puppet and a demonic beast version. It seems that the demonic crystal sect is really related to the northern wilderness region. Tianyang said in surprise. In the Arctic state, he had encountered a demonic crystal puppet, which had shocked him. He did not expect to encounter a demonic crystal puppet in the northern wilderness secret territory. Not only was it stronger than the demonic crystal puppet, but it was also in the UU spiritual pool. There were at least a dozen demonic crystal puppets. That's right. The UU spiritual pool only opens once every few years. If it was a real demonic beast, it would have starved to death. Only these demonic crystal puppets that can be activated by spiritual stones can be used for the test. However, this test is a little too violent. Tianyang muttered to himself. He had also heard that the person had died in the UU spiritual pool. The true yuan in his body circulated slightly, and the killing sword in his hand shone brightly. Tianyang's lips curled. He also wanted to know how powerful the killing sword would be after it broke through to the upper grade. To what extent could the power of the killing sword be raised to? The void-treading secret technique is one of my trump cards. There are too many people here, so it's not easy to use it. A dozen bright Chi realm demonic crystal puppets. Although their battle tactics are the same, it's enough for me to give it a try. Tianyang's lips curled, following which he tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and leaped onto the single-plank bridge. The single-plank bridge was extremely narrow. It was as wide as a shoe. It was not easy to dodge attacks on the single-plank bridge and walk all the way to the end. After testing out, Tianyang found that the single-plank bridge would not break easily. He was relieved and walked forward. At this moment, everyone finally reacted as they looked at Tianyang, who was walking on the single-plank bridge, in shock. What's going on with this kid? He's only at the Bright Chi realm. You have to know that the person from before was at the Bright Chi realm level 8. Even he died in the mouth of these demonic beasts. Isn't a Bright Chi realm level 6 cultivator sending himself to his death? Seeing this scene, the crowd was in an uproar. There were even some who mocked him. After all, a Bright Chi realm level 6 cultivator dared to challenge the first test of the UU cave. Even a Bright Chi realm level 8 cultivator would die tragically. This made the crowd, who had been hesitating for more than 10 minutes before the test, unable to accept it. He's just someone who wants to save face. In a few minutes, when he walks out of the 50-meter safe zone, he'll definitely die. A person sneered, his heart filled with anger. Even he did not have the courage to challenge this test. But Tianyang, who was much weaker than him, actually went ahead. Doesn't this mean that he can't even compare to a Bright Chi realm level 6 cultivator? Not necessarily. At this moment, the youth in black said slowly. His eyes were filled with fear and anticipation. If this person could really kill a Bright Chi realm level 8 cultivator and a Bright Chi realm level 7 cultivator together, then it would not be difficult for him to pass this test. Hearing this, the person who mocked him earlier said coldly, "He's just a piece of trash at the Bright Chi realm level 6 cultivator. How can he pass? Watch, he'll soon." Chapter 194. The Bright Moon spiritual pool was about 500 meters wide. The single plank bridge was also 500 meters long. According to the rules recorded on the stone tablet in front of the bright moon spiritual pool, after crossing the 500-meter single plank bridge, it would be the first opportunity in the bright moon cave abode. 50 meters, here it is. The moment he took the first step, Tianyang's eyes narrowed, and he unsheathed the killing sword in his hand. The demonic crystal war puppets that had been waiting underwater for a long time immediately rushed out of the water. Amidst the waves, they attacked fiercely toward Tianyang. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression did not change. The killing sword in his hand emitted a bright light. Aurora sword technique. The Aurora sword technique was as fast as the Aurora. The extremely fast sword technique was executed. Streaks of sword chi shot out in all directions. The 3 demonic crystal war puppets that were hiding behind the waves were instantly hit by the sword chi. The attacks of the 3 demonic crystal war puppets were also stopped for a moment. However, Tianyang's attack did not stop. Flowing cloud sword technique, cloud shadow sword. Tianyang shouted in a low voice. The true essence in his body surged and condensed into streaks of sword shadows that shot toward the 3 demonic crystal war puppets. Bang, bang, bang. Countless streaks of sword shadows crazily struck the 3 demonic crystal war puppets. In addition to the sword chi of the Aurora sword technique, Tianyang's attack exploded in an instant. Sunset sword technique. Boom! As Tianyang struck out with his sword again, the mighty sword chi of the sunset sword technique instantly shattered the energy core of the demonic crystal war puppet. It exploded above the bright moon spiritual pool into a gorgeous firework. The remaining 2 demonic crystal war puppets were also pushed back several feet and fell into the water again. Tianyang snorted coldly. Circulating his true essence, he executed the dragon's subduing step and rushed out dozens of meters in an instant. On the shore, those who had ridiculed Tianyang were all stunned. Previously, the demonic crystal war puppet had been able to kill a clear chi realm expert in an instant. However, in front of Tianyang, one of them had been killed in the blink of an eye. The black-clothed youth's expression changed. Just now, he didn't think that Tianyang could cross this single plank bridge. At least, it wouldn't be easy. However, Tianyang was able to unleash countless sword shadows in a single second. The last strike was as resplendent as the setting sun, and even managed to kill a 9th-level bright chi realm magical beast. With such terrifying strength, it would be a piece of cake for him to pass the first stage. The person who was certain that Tianyang couldn't walk more than 50 meters had an ugly expression on his face, as if he had eaten shit. He didn't dare to stay here any longer. After glaring at Tianyang, he quickly left when they weren't paying attention. The others were also immersed in Tianyang's magnificent battle, which was like a textbook, and did not notice that this person had left. At this time, Tianyang had already reached the middle of the single plank bridge. At this moment, he was only 200 meters away from the other side. He only needed a sprint, and he would be able to reach it. However, it seemed that they had discovered that someone was about to cross this stage. Under the spiritual pool, more than 10 demonic crystal war puppets had gathered. In the scarlet eyes of the demonic crystal war puppets, Tianyang's figure was reflected. In the next moment, the spirit stones in their bodies were rapidly depleted. Boom! 3 demonic crystal war puppets rushed out of the water and immediately launched a terrifying attack at Tianyang. Following that, another 3 demonic crystal war puppets appeared, and then another 3 demonic crystal war puppets. In the short span of a second, the remaining 12 demonic crystal war puppets had all rushed out. What? Seeing this scene, the people on the shore were all shocked. This bright moon spiritual pool actually had more than 10 of these magical beasts. This Tianyang was actually being attacked by more than 10 9th-level bright chi realm magical beasts. Damn it, he's going to cross it soon. The people on the shore roared. However, at this moment, the 12 demonic crystal war puppets all unleashed their strongest attacks. Boom, 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 boom. Terrifying explosions rang out. Tianyang's expression changed abruptly. He had never imagined that he would be attacked by the remaining demonic crystal war puppets. But this kind of attack is it useful against me? Tianyang's eyes flashed with a sharp light as he laughed softly. In the next moment, a light flashed in his hand. His martial soul, the heavenly sword, and the killing sword merged into one. Following that, Tianyang's wrist moved, and waves of true yuan gushed out. Sunset swordplay. Third J sword. Sunset descent. Tianyang shouted loudly. The true yuan in his body was almost boiling. Following that, a mighty sunset formed by sword chi exploded from his sword. A terrifying aura swept across the entire area. Even the people hundreds of meters away felt a sense of fear. What level is this swordplay at? A young man couldn't help but murmur. In front of this sword, he even felt himself trembling. In front of Tianyang, who was at the 6th level of the Bright Chi realm, a genius who was close to the peak of the 8th level of the Bright Chi realm, was trembling. The others were the same. They looked at Tianyang's sword in horror. That mighty sunset. It was as if this sword could kill them all. And at this moment, Tianyang's sunset swordplay, the third sword, and the combined attack of the 12 demonic crystal war puppets collided. Boom! It was as if the entire Bright Moon Cave was shaking. A terrifying sound, accompanied by a boundless wave of chi, swept across the area. On the tranquil azure spiritual pool, raging waves surged. The spiritual energy contained within had actually transformed into a series of ferocious attacks. What? *T. The young man in black's expression changed. He looked at the raging waves in front of him in shock. His expression changed greatly, and the true yuan in his body circulated rapidly. The waves brought about by the aftermath were as if they could directly injure them. Damn it! Another young man's expression changed greatly. The Bright Moon spiritual pool contains too much spiritual chi. If we jump in, we'll die. Only those strange demonic beasts can withstand it. Now, the water in the Bright Moon spiritual pool has been stirred up by that guy's battle, causing a terrifying wave. If we don't block it, we'll definitely be seriously injured. The young man roared. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed greatly, revealing a trace of horror. Just the aftermath of the battle was so terrifying. In that case, how intense was the battle at the center of the battlefield? Boom, boom, boom. Another few terrifying booms rang out. Waves that were even more powerful than before surged forth and merged with the waves from before. Their power skyrocketed once again. Seeing this, everyone's expression changed greatly. They hurriedly circulated their true yuan, trying to block the waves. Otherwise, just the enormous amount of spiritual chi contained within the waves would be enough to make them suffer. In the center of the battle, Tianyang, who was madly brandishing his sword to block the 12 demonic crystal war puppets, suddenly turned around and looked behind him. He saw that everyone was circulating their true yuan in order to block the aftermath of the battle that he had caused. This first test is really abnormal. Tianyang muttered to himself. In the next moment, Tianyang performed the dragon subduing step. His body suddenly became extremely illusory, and the consecutive attacks of the 12 demonic crystal war puppets were all perfectly dodged. In the next moment, a majestic and powerful attack burst out. With a splash of water, the huge waves of the spiritual pool that had caused so much trouble to everyone was Tianyang. Chapter 195. In the midst of the battle, he glanced around and casually swung his sword. Just like that, he shattered the raging waves that were causing them to be flustered. What kind of strength was this? Everyone was shocked as they watched the raging waves explode in front of them. This was just a casual swing of the sword by Tianyang. A casual swing of the sword had such power. How terrifying was Tianyang? He is only at the 6th level of the Bright Chi realm, someone muttered to himself. Hearing this, the crowd was in an uproar. They looked up to Tianyang as he battled the 12 giant beasts alone. Although Tianyang's cultivation was only at the 6th level of the Bright Chi realm, but just this strength alone was enough for them to look up to. The person who seemed to have left in a huff earlier was actually hiding in a corner and peeking. His face was swollen, as if it had already turned red. In the field, Tianyang could not be bothered with what those people wanted to do. Instead, he faced the joint attack of the 12 giant beasts with an ugly expression. Because these giant beasts were all demonic crystal war puppets, it was easy for them to cooperate with each other. Therefore, even Tianyang found it difficult to deal with the joint attack of these demonic crystal war puppets before he figured out their moves. After all, these demonic crystal war puppets were not the damaged demonic crystal war puppets that the first prince had taken out. They were genuine bright chi realm beasts. Pushing his dragon's subduing steps to the limit, Heavenly Sun dodged one attack after another. At the same time, he also launched an attack. However, an attack that could instantly kill a demonic crystal war puppet was not something that could be used casually. Previously, Tianyang was able to easily kill the demonic crystal war puppet because he had some time to prepare. But now, these 12 giant beasts did not give him any time to prepare. Maybe I can cultivate the dragon, subduing steps. Suddenly, Tianyang raised his eyebrows as an idea popped into his mind. Ever since he came to the world 10,000 years in the future, Tianyang had been focusing on cultivating the sword principle and the heaven-rank low-grade body, refining martial skill, the nine-tempered dragon body. In his previous life, Tianyang did not pay much attention to the cultivation of his movement skills. Therefore, this bad habit had been carried over to the present. For others, giving up on certain things and focusing on a certain aspect was the right choice. However, Tianyang was completely capable of cultivating the sword Dao, the nine-tempered dragon physique, the dragon suppression step, alchemy, and everything else. The Tianji Sword Emperor could do what no one else could. Perfect. It's a rare opportunity to be besieged by 12 bright Chi realm magical beasts. Let's practice the dragon's subduing steps well. The corners of Tianyang's mouth curled up, and a confident smile bloomed on his face. The true essence within his body revolved, and he began to push his dragon subduing step to the limit. The dragon subduing step was an earth-rank body refining martial skill. It had many functions, and even compared to the many martial skills in Tianyang's previous life, it was one of the best. Among the body refining martial skills, it was one of the best. Moreover, the requirements to cultivate it were very low, and it was easy for Tianyang to cultivate. Therefore, Tianyang chose the dragon subduing step. However, the dragon subduing step was an earth-rank martial skill. Although the requirements were low, it was not easy to cultivate. Tianyang, because he did not focus on cultivating it and only used it. Until now, he had only reached the peak of the second stage. There was still a long way to go before he could reach the third stage, which was the level of the martial skills artistic conception. Thinking of this, Tianyang could not help but sigh. He had really wasted a lot of time. At this moment, the 12 magical beasts roared, and the spiritual stones in their bodies were rapidly depleted. They actually attacked together. At this moment, Tianyang's eyes flashed with a sharp light. He used the dragon suppression step, and with a flick of his wrist, he sheathed the killing sword. Heavens! What is he doing? At this moment, the people on the shore were shocked. Facing the 12 magical beasts, Tianyang not only did not use his full strength, but he also sheathed his weapon. Wasn't this courting death? That guy, what is he doing? At this moment, the black-clothed youth's expression changed drastically. He stared at Tianyang, and the true origin in his body was affected by his emotions, and it began to circulate uncontrollably. He's crazy. Everyone had the same thought. At this moment, an unforeseen event occurred. After images flashed past, and the countless attacks were actually dodged by Tianyang. Even if a few of the attacks landed on Tianyang's body, his flood dragon body, which had already reached the pinnacle in terms of control and strength, was able to withstand the attacks. What kind of body-refining martial skill is this? Everyone exclaimed in surprise. As long as it was a joint attack, unless it was a kind of joint attack that surpassed everything else and reached a perfect level of joint attack, there would be a time lag. In the face of such a joint attack, the purpose of dodging was to make use of the time difference and explode with the strongest speed to nullify the attacks. However, it was easier said than done. If there was only one or two joint attacks, it would be fine. Not only would there be a time difference, but there would also be a space difference. It would be easier to dodge. However, the joint attack of the 12 magical beasts directly covered all directions and almost all the time difference. Without the space difference, Tianyang could only make use of the extremely short time difference, which was so minute that it was undetectable. For an ordinary person, this was almost impossible. They could not even perceive it and could only let the attacks land on their body. That was what the crowd thought too. However, in front of them, it was impossible. Good, Tianyang roared, and his face flashed with excitement. That's it. Using the dragon's subduing step, Tianyang continuously dodged one attack after another. His dragon subduing step cultivation was also getting stronger. In the beginning, if there was no time difference between 8 of the 12 magical beasts, he would have been hit. However, with Tianyang's monstrous talent in martial arts, his dragon subduing step was also becoming more and more proficient. Tianyang had a premonition. When faced with the joint attack of the 12 magical beasts, he dodged without any space or time difference. He had successfully cultivated to the 3rd stage of the dragon's subduing step, the dragon subduing concept. Bloody scars appeared on Heavenly Sun's body from the constant attacks. Even the side of Heavenly Sun's face had a scratch mark from an attack. However, Tianyang was not angry at all. Instead, he was laughing heartily. In the eyes of the crowd, Tianyang's figure was like a ghost that did not exist in this world. As he flipped and moved, it was as if he could capture and exploit a centimeter difference. Tianyang's figure was like a phantom, and he dodged one joint attack after another. However, when Tianyang was getting better, the 12 magical beasts seemed to be angered by Tianyang's actions, and they began to circulate their true origin at the same time. Seeing this scene, the young man in black could not help but exclaim, "Oh no!" From the looks of it, the next joint attack of the 12 magical beasts would not have any time difference for Tianyang to dodge. In the next moment, the violent attacks of the 12 magical beasts also proved the young man in black's guess. At this moment, Tianyang's lips curled into a strange smile, stepping on the dragon, subduing step, turning into a phantom. Without the time difference, there was no way to dodge. How could he dodge? Then, he would create a condition for himself. Dragon subduing concept success. He stepped down. Chapter 196. Complete dragon subduing steps. When the space was distorted and a crack appeared in the perfect combination attack, Tianyang knew that there was no reason for him to stay in the first round. Using the dragon subduing will that he had just comprehended, the Heavenly Sun body was like a ghost as it flew through the air above the bright moon's spirit pool. He did not use the secret air stepping technique, but only the normal dragon subduing steps. After comprehending the will of dragon subduing, Tianyang could use some of the power of space. With the power of space and Tianyang's own true yuan, it was not difficult for him to fly in the air for a short period of time. However, the crowd on the shore did not know this. Looking at Tianyang flying in the air above the bright moon's spiritual pool, the crowd was stunned. How could a 6th-level bright chi realm cultivator walk in the air? Even the top spirit transformation realm cultivators could only do this. Tianyang was only at the 6th level of the bright chi realm, but his cultivation was not as good as theirs. Such a cultivator could actually accomplish something that even spirit transformation realm cultivators could not do. Since the dragon subduing steps has been completed, I don't need you to train my movement technique anymore. Tianyang tapped the air with the tip of his foot and rushed out a distance. Looking at the 12 beasts that had suddenly lost their target, he smiled indifferently. I destroyed 2 of your puppets. Consider it the interest for tormenting me for so long. Tianyang laughed lightly. At this moment, he no longer suppressed himself, but drew out his killing sword and slashed at the 2 demonic crystal war puppets. The sword flashed, and the 2 giant beasts exploded. Tianyang leisurely left. What the crowd saw was only the back view of him passing around. This young man is so powerful. I wonder which country he is from, the Snowfield country, the Tiansong country, or the Sky Moon country. He must be one of the top geniuses in that country. But I don't know all the geniuses of the 3 countries, but I don't know this young man at all. Seeing Tianyang's back disappear, the crowd couldn't help but burst into a discussion. However, Lu Qing and Li Wenqing were the only ones who knew Tianyang in the Inua mountain range and coincidentally rushed into Hao Yu's cave. At this moment, they had all died at the hands of Tianyang. The remaining people naturally could not discuss anything. Only the mysterious black-clothed youth looked at the empty single-plank bridge and the bright moon's spiritual pool. His eyes flashed as he muttered to himself in his heart, "With such strength, he's already qualified." Tianyang, who had passed the first test perfectly, did not stop at the end. Instead, he turned a corner and came to a place. There were 5 tests in this bright moon cave. This time, there should be more than one person who passed the first test. However, Tianyang took away the opportunity of the first test without hesitation. There's actually a space bag? TSK. It seems that the news of the bright moon cultivator returning to Hao Yu's cave once and leaving behind more opportunities is true. Tianyang clicked his tongue. In this small secret room, there were all the opportunities that could be obtained after passing the first test. There was a space bag, which contained some items obtained by the bright moon cultivator when he wandered in the Inua mountain range. There were also more than 10,000 spirit stones. There was also a note with a message left by the bright moon cultivator. There was nothing interesting about the note. It was just an explanation for his return and an encouragement to those who came later. Tianyang left this note here as an answer to others. As for him, he went to pass the second test. Compared to the first test, the second test was not more difficult. Instead, it was much easier. After all, the reason why the first test was attacked by the 12 giant beasts was because they did not know what Tianyang had on him that made them go crazy. As for the second test, it was easy for Tianyang to deal with it. The test was to use pure physical strength to defeat an extremely powerful puppet. Of course, it was not a magic crystal puppet. This puppet's strength was at the peak of the half-step origin transformation realm. However, in front of Tianyang, who was already able to fight with an expert of the origin transformation realm, it was still not worth mentioning. Tianyang did not even use the killing sword. He directly walked over and smashed the puppet's head with 3 punches. The opportunities in the second test were similar to those in the first test. However, they were much better than the first test. According to Tianyang's estimation, if he passed all 5 tests, he should be able to collect more than half of the Yin attribute spiritual herbs and spiritual medicines that he needed to cultivate the heavenly dragon body. The third test tested one's reaction speed, which was similar to the first test. However, it was different from the first test, which focused on body movement. In the third test, there were countless hidden weapons. If one's reaction speed was not fast enough, they would be hit by these hidden weapons and lose the qualification to continue. In this regard, Tianyang was even more disdainful. He had already cultivated the dragon's subduing essence. Why would he be afraid of this? In less than 3 minutes, Tianyang passed through the tunnel and arrived at the 4th test. In the 3rd test, Tianyang had already collected all the Yin attribute spiritual herbs except for the Yin attribute spiritual herbs that were on par with the 9 suns grass. Next, Tianyang only wanted to give a try and went to the next 2 tests. He did not expect that there would be Yin attribute spiritual herbs that were on par with the 9 suns grass in the Hao Yu Cave Mansion. After all, the 9 suns grass was a treasure that even Dao Fire Realm experts would covet. If the Hao Yu Cave Mansion cultivators really had such a treasure, unless they were crazy, why would they leave it behind and give it to their descendants? Tianyang did not spend too much time in the next 2 tests. The 4th test was a little interesting. It was not a battle, but it allowed Tianyang to comprehend a low-grade Earth-level martial skill left behind by a Hao Yu Cave Mansion cultivator. This low-grade Earth-level martial skill was called Lunar Shadow Movement Technique. If it was placed outside, it would definitely cause an incomparably bloody frenzy of killing and plundering. However, it did not have any value to Tianyang. After spending about half a day to cultivate this Lunar Shadow Movement Technique to the 2nd stage, Tianyang left. The fortuitous encounter of the 4th stage was extremely mysterious. To sum it up, this Moon Shadow Movement Technique was the fortuitous encounter. Regarding this, Tianyang could not be bothered to say anything. The 5th test which was also the last test, was very simple. The first 4 tests all had their own key points. However, in the 5th test, all these key points had to be gathered together. It directly tested the person's strength. Strength, which was also combat power, was the foundation of a cultivator. The first few tests tested Tianyang's various abilities. At the end, it was the real test of Tianyang's strength. As for Tianyang, he looked at the ferocious, huge magical beast in front of him that had just broken out of the eye seal. The corners of his mouth curled up. Chapter 197. The corner of Tianyang's mouth twitched as he looked at the gigantic magical beast that was as tall as 2 people. The magical beast was like a lion, but it was so tall that it seemed like it could stomp a human to death. Its skin was dark and gloomy, and only its silver mane could reflect some light. Its eyes were extremely dark and deep. The aura it emitted caused Tianyang's heart to sink. This lion was actually a crescent lion, and it was a 3rd-stage crescent lion that had reached the 2nd level of the origin transformation stage. The crescent lion absorbed the energy of the moon and stars in the sky. Moreover, the colder the place, the stronger the crescent lion that grew there. The Inua mountain range was already abnormally strong with the Yin attribute. Since this crescent lion grew there, it was obviously not a good creature. Although its cultivation was only at the 2nd level of the origin transformation stage, it had already reached the 3rd level of the origin transformation stage. It's been a long time since I had a battle of equal strength. Although this crescent lion is a beast, it's still barely enough. The corner of Tianyang's mouth curled up as he looked at the crescent lion that was glaring at him with its silver, mane shining, and its eyes filled with blood and hunger. Without any fear, he directly pulled out the killing sword. The killing sword's sharp light flashed, and the moment the killing sword was pulled out, the crescent lion also felt a terrifying threat. Roar! The crescent lion let out a bestial roar as the true essence in its body madly circulated. It raised its gigantic claw and fiercely slapped down at Tianyang. Not bad. Although it's hungry, its strength is still not bad. Feeling the enormous strength contained in this claw, Tianyang lightly nodded. In the next moment, he executed the dragon's subduing step and directly dodged this attack. The killing sword in his hand flashed as Tianyang shouted in a low voice, "Aurora's sword art!" Instantly, the speed of Tianyang's wrist flipping was extremely fast. The sword light that was as fast as the aurora crisscrossed and exploded with boundless killing intent as it fiercely attacked the crescent lion. The crescent lion furiously roared as it raised its claw and fiercely collided with the aurora sword art. Boom! A terrifying explosion rang out as a tyrannical force passed through the killing sword and landed heavily on Tianyang's body. Tianyang felt as if his chest had been hit by a heavy hammer. His body was in turmoil, and his face paled slightly. Due to its bloodline, the crescent lion's physical strength was extremely strong. In addition, the Inyu mountain range was an extremely favorable environment for its growth. The crescent lion's physical strength could crush other crescent lions of the same level. Furthermore, it surpassed Tianyang's flood dragon body. Ever since Tianyang had successfully cultivated the flood dragon body, he had never met an opponent who could surpass him in terms of physical strength. Now, the mutated crescent lion that had attained the 3rd level of the origin transformation stage had finally attained this point. Very good. Tianyang laughed loudly as a terrifying force exploded from the killing sword in his hand and repelled the claw. In the next moment, Tianyang used the dragon's subduing step and arrived behind the crescent lion. The crescent lion let out a low roar and turned around as well. It struck out with its claws as if it wanted to smash Tianyang into pieces. Tianyang was too lazy to care about this. The true origin in his body surged as streaks of true origin condensed into a vast sword chi and violently attacked. The dazzling sword chi almost enveloped the entire 5th stage. No matter how the crescent lion attacked, it was inevitable that a few streaks of sword chi would land on its body. Slash! The crescent lion's flesh split open as a stream of blood flew out, and landed on the ground. Smelling the scent of its own blood, the crescent lion, which was already enraged by hunger, became even more furious. The true origin in its body surged violently as the attack power of each of its attacks skyrocketed. Seeing this, Tianyang chuckled. He was not afraid at all. The killing sword in his hand continuously slashed out streaks of sword chi, blocking the crescent lion's attacks one after another. Finally, the crescent lion went berserk. A blood-red light flashed in its eyes. Roar! The crescent lion let out a long roar as the true origin in its body boiled. At this moment, in the Inuan mountain range, the moon in the sky seemed to shoot out a beam of energy into the crescent lion's body. The crescent lion's aura also skyrocketed at this moment. It used the crescent lion's power. It seems like this crescent lion is going to use its full strength. Tianyang raised his eyebrows as he looked at the crescent lion in front of him. He snorted coldly as he circulated the true origin in his body. The killing sword in his hand emitted a dazzling light. Tianyang had a premonition that after this battle, the killing sword would have a chance to be upgraded to a true upper-grade precious weapon. Roar! The crescent lion let out an angry roar as true origin surged into the sound waves and spread in all directions. The surrounding walls trembled. That was a wall made of solid rock. Even a level 1 bright chi realm cultivator might not be able to shatter them with a full blow. However, under the crescent lion's angry roar, the walls actually showed signs of collapsing. As for Tianyang, in front of the crescent lion that had activated the crescent lion's power, he could not help but look serious. The crescent lion had the Yin Moon's bloodline that had been passed down since ancient times. Once it was forced into a corner, it would activate the crescent lion's power in the sky and infuse it into its body to strengthen its strength. Previously, Tianyang had used his overwhelming strength to force this starving crescent lion into a corner. Therefore, he activated the crescent lion's power with the crescent lion. In the next moment, thousands of crescent lion's power gathered like starlight towards the crescent lion's claws and turned into a huge ball of light. Seeing this, Tianyang's expression changed slightly. It's the crescent lion's bloodline ability, Crescent Roar. I didn't expect the crescent lion's bloodline to be so pure. However, it's still going to be killed by me. Tianyang laughed loudly. At this moment, the crescent lion had finally gathered the crescent lion's power to its limit. In the next moment, an enormous claw that contained the powerful crescent lion's power turned into a bluish-white crescent light that ruthlessly attacked Tianyang. The terrifying power contained within almost crushed Tianyang. After all, this was the full blow of the crescent lion, a level 3 origin transformation realm magical beast that was comparable to the soaring cloud sect leader, Li Lingyun. It's a pity that it's in a starving state and can only use half of its strength. Tianyang sighed lightly. The killing sword in his hand flashed, and the sunset sword technique was about to be formed. Although the crescent roar was the crescent lion's strongest move, it was impossible for it to block Tianyang's sunset sword technique. Master, be careful! Just as Tianyang was about to attack, a powerful sword gleam, as if it had come from the depths of hell, slashed towards him. Hearing this, Tianyang was stunned. However, the instant the crescent lion before him felt this sword light, it immediately started trembling violently. Its aura dropped to its limit, and the move that was enough to kill a level 1 origin transformation realm magical beast suddenly collapsed. In the next moment, the crescent lion was killed by this sword without any ability to resist. On the other hand, Tianyang turned his head to look at the newcomer and said in surprise, Chapter 198. Yuhan. Tianyang was shocked. He did not expect Ling Yuhan to appear here at this moment. At this moment, the ray of sword light completely killed the crescent moon lion. Boom! There was a deafening sound. The crescent lion's neck was cut off. Blood spurted out and it was dead. The crescent lion, a level 3 demonic beast, was killed by Ling Yuhan's sword just like that. Tianyang was even more shocked when he saw this. Seeing Ling Yuhan's ability to instantly kill the crescent lion, Ling Yuhan had most likely reached at least the same cultivation level as him. It was not easy for a cultivator to increase his cultivation level. For an ordinary person, even a slight improvement would take a long time. The higher the cultivation level, the more difficult it was. Although Ling Yuhan and Tianyang were only in the illuminating chi state, it would take a long time for them to improve. They had only stepped into the northern wilderness secret realm for a few days. No, the Crescent Lion's cultivation level seemed to have decreased a lot. Its defense and attack power have decreased to 30% of their original level. The Crescent Lion could only use half of its original power. Now that it has been suppressed by 70%, it's not surprising that Yuhan killed it instantly. But why would the Crescent Lion's cultivation suddenly plummet for no reason at all? Tianyang frowned. At this moment, Ling Yuhan was already in front of him. She exclaimed, "Master, it's really you. Who else could it be?" Looking at Ling Yuhan's cute and surprised face, Tianyang put his doubts aside. He scratched Ling Yuhan's nose and smiled. "Why are you here? I was going to look for you in the giant Sun Mountain range, but I felt that something was calling me in the Inua Mountain range, so I came here directly," Ling Yuhan said. "When I passed by this cave, I sensed Master's aura and rushed here directly." Hearing this, Tianyang was shocked. Rushed here directly? With the checkpoints set up by the Hallyu cultivators just for show? Even if it was him, he would need to spend a certain amount of time if he wanted to pass through in one go. When Tianyang voiced his doubts, Ling Yuhan scratched her head. "Really? Aren't those battle puppets broken?" "Broken?" Tianyang's expression was completely dumbfounded. When they were fighting with him, that group of puppets had been full of vigor and vitality. So why had they become broken the moment they encountered Ling Yuhan? Little did they know that in the first barrier, when they saw a young girl rushing in and rushing over without any effort, everyone was completely dumbfounded. What was going on? After that monstrous young man passed by, another monstrous young woman came? That's not right. Why aren't there any movements from these magical beasts? No matter how fast you rush, there will be someone to stop you. A young man asked doubtfully, "Could it be? Is it broken?" Thinking of this, the young man was excited and rushed forward. In the end, he was knocked back by a giant beast before he could step out of the 50-meter safe zone. "It's not broken. How'd the young girl get there?" After Ling Yuhan explained the ins and outs in detail, Tianyang fell into deep thought. The magic crystal battle puppets and various mechanisms in the Hallyu cave mansion were made by the magic crystal sect or other powerful forces. For example, the Crescent Lion was caught by the Hallyu cultivators. It was almost impossible for these things to be destroyed naturally, not to mention that Tianyang had trampled on them before. Since it's not a problem with the mechanism itself, what's the problem? Tianyang frowned. Although he didn't know what happened in the first barrier, he could control the situation. Yuhan has the 9 Nether Saint body. Maybe it's the power of the 9 Nether Saint body that suppressed the mechanism powered by the cold Yin energy of the Inua Mountain. If that's the case, it's not impossible, Tianyang muttered. Ling Yuhan was at a loss when she heard that. There was a strong seal in her body that sealed her blood vessels. At the same time, her martial spirit was also sealed. Ling Yuhan had such a strong physique, it was impossible that she only had an ordinary upper-grade martial spirit. "Well, Yuhan, didn't you say that there was something calling you in the Inua Mountain? Maybe it's related to your martial soul and blood vessels. When the time comes, let's go and take a look." Tianyang smiled. Ling Yuhan nodded and followed him. Then, the two of them went to get the opportunity of the 5th barrier. The opportunity of the 5th barrier was even less sincere than that of the 4th barrier. However, to Tianyang, it was extremely valuable. The opportunity of the 5th barrier was a map. On the map, there was a trace of a treasure. There was only one reason why the Inua Mountain had the same cold Yin energy as the giant Sun Mountain. The Inua Mountain had an Yin property treasure that was as strong as the Fusong tree. The trace of a treasure was on the map. The Jewel of the Dark Souls. It's much more valuable than the 9 Suns grass. I can't believe the Northern Wilderness Mystery Land has it. Tianyang looked at the information on the map and sighed. The Jewel of the Dark Souls was very famous 10,000 years ago. Among the Een property treasures, it was considered the most powerful one in the entire continent. Only the emperors and the ascending heaven realm experts did not care much about it. For those at that level, the Jewel of the Dark Souls was precious, but it was not impossible for them to take it. As for the weaker experts, they were thirsty for it. Even the weaker Dao Fire Realm experts would kill each other for the Jewel of the Dark Souls. And such an important treasure was placed in the Northern Wilderness Mystery Land of the Northern Wilderness region, where the strongest cultivators were at the primordial transformation realm. Thinking of the group of experts who killed each other for the Jewel of the Dark Souls and the Jewel of Yang Spirit in his previous life, Tianyang could not help but shake his head. They killed each other in the central region, but they did not expect the Jewel of the Dark Souls to be in the northernmost part of the continent, the Northern Wilderness region, which they did not take seriously. The Jewel of the Dark Souls is the core of the Inua Mountain. Even a primordial transformation realm expert would not dare to act rashly, let alone someone of my cultivation level. However, around the Jewel of the Dark Souls, there will definitely be spirit grass growing. With the spirit grass, I can try to break through to the body of the heavenly dragon. Tianyang smiled. Although she did not know what the Jewel of the Dark Souls was, Ling Yuhan could tell that Tianyang was happy. Then, she looked at the things recorded on the map and suddenly had an idea. Chapter 199. That direction seems to be the direction where I'm being summoned, Ling Yuhan said uncertainly. Upon hearing that, Tianyang was stunned and said in surprise, "Really?" "Yes." Ling Yuhan nodded heavily. "It's in that direction. Hao Cave Mansion, where we are, is about 15 miles to the west." Upon hearing that, Tianyang squinted his eyes slightly and put the map back into the space bag. "If that's the case, we have to go." Ling Yuhan had the Ling Yuhan sacred body and an unknown powerful martial soul. Therefore, no matter what was summoning Ling Yuhan because of her bloodline or martial soul, Tianyang had to go. Ling Yuhan was the first disciple that he had accepted in both his previous and current lives. Although he had not paid much attention to him at the start, after interacting with him for so long, Tianyang had already regarded him as one of the most important people in his current life. Now that something related to Ling Yuhan's bloodline or martial soul had appeared, as her master, he naturally had to go. "Then let's go," Tianyang said softly. Then, he left Hao Cave Mansion through the other door of the 5th level. The 5 levels of the Hao Cave Mansion, the 5 opportunities, were all taken by Tianyang. Now, with the Nether Spirit's bead map and the mystery of Ling Yuhan's bloodline, Tianyang naturally could not concentrate on cultivation. After leaving Hao Cave Mansion, Tianyang and Ling Yuhan immediately locked onto a position. "Come here. I'll carry you on my back. It's faster to fly." Tianyang stood in front of Ling Yuhan and said. Upon hearing that, Ling Yuhan's face turned red, but she immediately adjusted and jumped directly onto Tianyang's back. Almost her whole body was lying on Tianyang's back. Her chest pressed against Tianyang's back, causing Ling Yuhan's face to turn even redder. However, Tianyang didn't have any other thoughts. He immediately used the void treading secret technique and stepped into the clouds. Then he burst out with extreme speed and flew toward the west. Compared to the Een Soul Pearl, what was more important? For Tianyang, there was no such thing. A beam of light flew across the night sky at a speed that was unimaginable to the other cultivators in the Northern Wilderness Secret Territory. It was heading towards the location of the Dark Spirit Pearl. As for the mysterious black-clothed youth in Hao Cave, he seemed to have sensed something. Seeing that only a few people had passed the first stage, the black-clothed youth gave up on the idea of continuing. It had been so long. Presumably, Tianyang had already swept away all those opportunities. There was no point in continuing to challenge them, so he might as well explore other places. After all, the Northern Wilderness Secret Territory was where the relics of the entire Northern Wilderness region gathered. As long as one had the heart, they would definitely be able to find a few opportunities. "We're almost there." After flying for about 3 minutes, Tianyang said. Then he took a look at the iconic tall tree, slowed down, and landed. At this moment, Ling Yuhan's body trembled as she exclaimed, "I can feel that the summoning energy here has become stronger than ever." Hearing this, Heavenly Sun's eyes flickered and a light flashed. They were already so close. With Heavenly Sun's soul force at the peak of the Heaven Ascension realm, if he still couldn't sense anything, he would be a waste of his title as the Sky Pole Sword Emperor. This place was indeed filled with Een energy. However, it was all because of the Een Soul Pearl. The Een Soul Pearl was just 100 meters underground. How could the Een energy not be abundant? However, under this huge wave of Een energy, another wave of energy that wasn't huge, but was much purer than the precious spirit of Een Pearl, was slowly being released. As Ling Yuhan got closer, this energy became stronger and stronger. This is, after landing on the ground and putting down Ling Yuhan, Tianyang scanned the surroundings. It was dark now, and the moonlight was blocked by the leaves. Without a source of light, it was impossible to see anything. However, Tianyang's eyes were like a ball of fire to begin with. He was able to clearly see everything in his surroundings. Other than the tall tree in front of him, there was nothing out of the ordinary. However, at this moment, Tianyang's pupils shrank. A terrifying aura exploded in front of him. Tianyang felt that he couldn't move at all. It was as if he was about to be crushed by this aura. Dao Fire Realm, and not just level 1 of the Dao Fire Realm. Tianyang's pupils shrank as he exclaimed in shock. There was actually the aura of a Dao Fire Realm hidden here. A Dao Fire Realm cultivator was definitely a peerless elite in the Northern Wilderness region. Even the strongest elite in the Northern Wilderness region, Sky Moon Country, was only at level 7 of the Origin Transformation Realm. There was actually a Dao Fire Realm elite here. However, a mere Dao Fire Realm cultivator dares to oppress me? You must be tired of living. Tianyang sneered. The inner yuan in his body circulated, and an unparalleled Emperor's aura exploded. Once the Emperor's aura was released, no one dared to disobey. When the Dao Fire Realm's aura met the Emperor's aura, it dissipated like snow meeting fire. Ling Yuhan, who was at the side, was at a loss. She looked at Tianyang as if he was facing a great enemy. It was only when Tianyang shouted that Ling Yuhan's expression changed. There was actually a Dao Fire Realm elite hidden here. Emperor's aura. At this moment, a coquettish voice suddenly sounded. The voice was ethereal and difficult to find, as if it didn't exist in this world. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyes narrowed slightly. He took a few steps forward, and a surging aura exploded. I thought that a Dao Fire Realm cultivator had his eyes on this place. I didn't expect that the nine-tailed fox, who had a much stronger background than an ordinary Dao Fire Realm cultivator, would actually die here. Only a soul imprint remains. Tianyang's voice was calm as it spread in all directions. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan's eyes widened. Dao Fire Realm? Nine-tailed fox? Fallen? Wasn't the nine-tailed fox an extremely powerful demon that only existed in legends? Why would it appear in this small northern wilderness region? Since you've already been exposed, come out. Do you really want me to force you out? Sensing that there was no movement in the surroundings, Tianyang snorted coldly. The Tianyang sword condensed in his hand, and a sword emperor's aura that was even stronger than before crushed in all directions. The giant tree in front of him seemed to be trembling, and the surrounding vegetation was almost destroyed. This was just the aura. I didn't expect a secret realm in this small northern wilderness region to attract the attention of a great emperor. Then I'll come out. After being threatened by Tianyang, the coquettish voice sounded again. Accompanied by a wave of true origin, the giant tree in front of them suddenly moved. In the middle of the tree trunk, which originally looked like a hole, there was a sudden crack in a hole. A beautiful human figure appeared in their line of sight. Chapter 200. Nine-tailed fox. The nine-tailed fox, one of the top clans in the entire Heaven continent, had actually appeared in front of them. Through the 9 strands of flesh and hair on the back of the nine-tailed fox, there was no doubt that this person was a nine-tailed fox. You're able to cultivate 9 tails. Although you haven't completely cultivated the 9th tail, it's still not bad. If I'm not wrong, you've already reached the peak of the third heaven of the Tao Fire realm. You're not far away from the next realm, Tianyang said. Hearing this, the beautiful and seductive nine-tailed fox figure nodded. You're worthy of being a great emperor expert. You can see my cultivation at a glance. Come on, even if I'm not a great emperor, anyone who knows your nine-tailed fox clan can see it. Tianyang sneered. He wasn't polite to this beautiful and seductive nine-tailed fox. As a great emperor, he had always respected those who respected him 10 times over. The same applied to the other way around. This nine-tailed fox had wanted to use the coercion of the Tao Fire realm to oppress Tianyang. Although Tianyang had used his emperor's coercion to suppress her, Tianyang wouldn't be nice to this nine-tailed fox. Great emperor? Master, what are you talking about? Ling Yuhan asked with a blank face. Although she knew what a nine-tailed fox was, she didn't understand the content of their conversation at all. Tianyang smiled when he heard that. It's enough for you to just listen from the side. I think you should know what your bloodline is by now. Tianyang chuckled. Hearing this, the nine-tailed fox's eyes flashed. My lord, forgive me for offending you. Why do you have emperor's coercion? You must be a genuine great emperor expert. Why is his cultivation level only at the clear chi realm? The nine-tailed fox asked. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows and shielded Ling Yuhan behind him. He placed his right hand on his left hand and looked at the nine-tailed fox in front of him playfully. This great emperor is the real deal. This cultivation base of the clear chi realm is also the real deal. Don't tell me you're thinking of using the remaining power of your soul imprint to kill me. Tianyang chuckled. His current cultivation was weak, and his combat strength was nothing compared to the real pinnacle experts of the continent. However, no one would dare to say that his soul was second in the continent. Now, the nine-tailed fox's soul imprint. Only soul imprint. Its soul imprint would be destroyed in a few years' time. Of souls ofs? If the nine-tailed fox was stupid enough to attempt to possess his body, Heavenly Sun wouldn't mind obliterating the nine-tailed fox's body and soul. Tianyang would not show mercy to his enemies. Although the nine-tailed fox was beautiful and her voice could make ordinary people fall to their knees, it was useless against Tianyang. Tianyang was a bachelor for 2 lifetimes. What are you talking about, great emperor? I don't even have the time to worship you, let alone attack you. The nine-tailed fox smiled coquettishly. Although she was only left with a little soul imprint, the seductive aura she exuded was not reduced in the slightest. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled faintly, then asked, What's your name? The nine-tailed fox's eyes narrowed. She glanced at Tianyang in front of her, and then at Ling Yuhan, who was behind Tianyang. She smiled bitterly and reached out her hand. Ling Yuhan was immediately pushed out by the nine-tailed fox. Tianyang's expression did not change. It was just a small means of soundproofing that he could easily break. However, using this means of soundproofing consumed a lot of the nine-tailed fox, who was only left with a soul imprint. Obviously, the nine-tailed fox did not want Ling Yuhan to hear what she was about to say. My name is Qinhan, the nine-tailed fox said. As for your disciple, she's the girl who has the bloodline of my clan. The bloodline of your clan? Tianyang's heart skipped a beat. The nine-tailed fox, Qinhan nodded. When the girl stepped into this mystic realm, the remaining nine-tailed fox bloodline in my body sensed it and woke me up from my deep slumber. The reason why I was able to live from 10,000 years ago until now was entirely because of my deep slumber. Now, even a deep slumber can't allow me to continue living. Therefore, when I sensed the presence of the bloodline of my clan, I immediately summoned her. I didn't expect that when she came, she brought along a great emperor. Qinhan smiled bitterly. Even though she was smiling bitterly, her beautiful and charming face revealed a strange seduction. Tianyang was not surprised by this. This was the nature of the nine-tailed fox. It was not that Qinhan wanted to seduce him. However, compared to Qinhan's beautiful face, Tianyang was more concerned about one thing. A solemn look flashed across his eyes. You're saying that you came from 10,000 years ago. Then you're so seriously injured and even died here because of the great destruction of the civilization 10,000 years ago? Tianyang asked in a low voice. He rarely had such rapid changes in mood, but someone from 10,000 years ago was enough to make him feel this way. Yes. Qianhan nodded, then looked at Tianyang in confusion. I wonder why your highness is asking this. It's nothing. Tianyang smiled when he heard this. The hostility he had towards Qianhan dissipated. I'm just lamenting. The cause of our deaths is the same, Tianyang smiled. There was bitterness in his words. After all, after cultivating for hundreds of years and successfully climbing to the peak of the continent, he was struck to death by the heavenly tribulation. Anyone would be depressed. However, after hearing this, the nine-tailed fox Qianhan trembled. She looked at Tianyang in disbelief. You're the Tianji Sword Emperor. Qianhan was shocked. Even her soul shadow was trembling violently. It was obvious how agitated she was. The Tianji Sword Emperor was a legend to the people of 10,000 years ago. He had cultivated for less than 100 years, but he had successfully killed the Tianji Sword Emperor. Even the talented sword Saint Zhou Xing had been suppressed by the Tianji Sword Emperor and could not claim the title of emperor. Moreover, when the great destruction of the civilization was imminent, Tianyang had sacrificed himself. He knew that he would die, but he still risked his life to buy some time for the people of the continent to react. Otherwise, when the great destruction of the civilization came, the entire continent would be plunged into misery and suffering. If not for the Tianyang, this world would not even exist 10,000 years later. That's right. Tianyang nodded. He didn't know how much of an impact his desperate actions before his death would have on these people. However, after receiving Tianyang's acknowledgement, the nine-tailed fox Qianhan's face immediately lit up with excitement. She was clearly in the form of a soul shadow, but she immediately knelt down. Chapter 201. Sword Overlord, please accept my bow, Qianhan said loudly. In the next moment, she bent her knees and knelt in front of Tianyang. Seeing this, Tianyang was stunned. What's going on? Isn't she just aware of my identity? I don't have any grudges against the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. Why is Qianhan kneeling to me? The Nine-Tailed Fox clan was an ancient clan. They were from the same era as the Red Dragon Wuzun. Such a clan was extremely arrogant. They would never kneel to an ordinary person. 10,000 years ago, if the Sword Overlord had not risked his life to block the heavenly punishment for us, the entire heaven continent would have been plunged into misery and suffering. I wouldn't have been able to leave behind this body and this soul imprint to linger on for 10,000 years. Qianhan said emotionally. Hearing this, Tianyang understood. This was similar to the descendant of Xiao Hong, and Ling, whom he had met before. It seemed that his instinctive actions before his death had saved many people. All right, you can get up. Although he understood, it did not mean that Tianyang could accept it calmly. After helping Qianhan's soul shadow up, Tianyang asked curiously, since you didn't die in the heavenly punishment of the great destruction of civilization, how did you die in this small northern wilderness region? There's definitely nothing in this northern wilderness region that can threaten a level 3 Dao Fire Realm elite. Hearing this, Qianhan's eyes flashed and she smiled bitterly. Although I didn't die in the great destruction of civilization, I was severely injured. My Dark Soul Pearl was almost completely destroyed. I didn't have long to live. If I didn't find this secret realm in time, even if I was lucky enough to survive, I wouldn't have been able to continue living. Qianhan said. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly. It seemed that the great destruction of civilization had really destroyed the world. If he had not coincidentally encountered the great destruction of civilization and bought some time for heaven and earth, perhaps heaven continent would have been completely destroyed. If that's the case, I can't say anything. Tianyang's eyes flashed, and he took a step back. He was deep in thought. It was impossible for the great destruction of a civilization to be caused by the celestial Tao of this world. After all, the celestial Tao was the celestial Tao of the celestial continent. Unless the heavenly Tao was really out of its mind, only an idiot would do such a self-harming act. Could it be that there's someone else involved in this? Tianyang's eyes flickered, as if he had come into contact with something, but he could not grasp it. He was only at the 6th level of the Radiant Chi realm. Not only were they as insignificant as ants to the unknown enemy, but they were also insignificant to the powerful cultivators of the Sky Continent. What I need to do now is to become stronger. Only by becoming stronger can we find out the truth behind the great destruction of our civilization. Tianyang's eyes flashed. Then he turned around and said, "Now that you've said what you wanted to say, shall I let my disciple speak to you?" Hearing this, Qianhan nodded and looked eagerly at Ling Yuhan, who was standing outside the soundproof barrier, not knowing what to do. His eyes emitted a gentle light. The Nine-Tailed Fox clan had suffered a great blow during the great destruction of their civilization. When Qianhan cut off her connection with the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, the Nine-Tailed Fox clan's power had been greatly reduced. Now, Qianhan had thought that she would never see another member of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan until she died. She did not expect to see someone with a Nine-Tailed Fox bloodline after 10,000 years. Moreover, Qianhan had a feeling that this human girl's Nine-Tailed Fox bloodline might be even stronger than hers. "Thank you, Sword Emperor. I'll let her in then," Qianhan said respectfully. Then, with a wave of his hand, the powerful soul power of the 3rd heaven of the Dao Fire realm pulled Ling Yuhan over. Tianyang turned around and walked to the entrance of the cave. He looked at the sky, full of stars. The stars and moon, there were only projections of the real heaven continent. However, Tianyang's eyes seemed to be looking at ancient secrets through the projection of the starry sky. Tianyang's eyes were deep. After staring at the starry sky for a while, he turned around and looked at his surroundings. The surroundings were quiet. Other than the giant trees behind him, there were only ordinary bushes and grass. Because of the Nine-Tailed Fox remains, even magical beasts that had reached the primordial transformation realm did not dare to invade. A bloodline that can withstand the Nine Nether Saint body is definitely not ordinary Heavenly Sun side. At this moment, at the entrance of the cave, Qianhan told Ling Yuhan everything with a solemn expression. Previously, Tianyang had told her not to reveal his identity, and Qianhan had followed his instructions. Therefore, Ling Yuhan did not know that the great emperor that Qianhan had mentioned was Tianyang. Ling Yuhan was also completely attracted by Qianhan's words. "I have the Nine-Tailed Fox bloodline in me." Ling Yuhan was shocked. She had never thought that an orphan like her would have such a bloodline. Qianhan could only smile bitterly. A clansman with a Nine-Tailed Fox bloodline did not even know what her own bloodline was. This made Qianhan very emotional. "That's right. The reason why your martial soul is only upper yellow class is because of the bloodline seal in your body. The owner of the bloodline seal is even stronger than my level 3 Dao Fire Realm cultivation. However, previously, Sword, Tianyang had already helped you to dissolve part of it. It was much easier for me to undo it," Qianhan said solemnly. She had just probed and was shocked to find out that the bloodline seal in Ling Yuhan's body had become so strong. It could be said that Qianhan's level 3 Dao Fire Realm cultivation was like an ant in front of the owner of the bloodline seal. If Heavenly Sun hadn't sensed something before and used his great mystical power to dissolve a bit of the bloodline seal without Ling Yuhan noticing, then, otherwise, even if it was Qianhan, he would also be helpless against Ling Yuhan's bloodline seal. "Yuhan, who are your parents?" Qianhan asked. Ling Yuhan was stunned when she heard that. Then, tears welled up in her eyes. "No, I was adopted by the Soaring Cloud sect when I was young. I grew up until now. If not for Master, I wouldn't even know what bloodline I have in my body," Ling Yuhan said with a trembling voice. Qianhan's expression softened when she heard that. "Don't worry. No matter who your parents are, your master will definitely help you find them." Hearing this, Ling Yuhan finally stopped feeling sad. He glanced at Qianhan's face, which had suddenly turned serious, and his heart trembled. She knew that Qianhan's bloodline secret technique was about to be completed. At this moment, a light flashed in Qianhan's eyes. The few drops of Nine-Tailed fox blood essence in Qian Han's remains began to burn. Nine-tailed fox Qian Han shall be the name. Nine-tailed bloodline, descend upon the world. Qian Han shouted. The few drops of nine-tailed fox blood essence were completely burned and turned into a blood-colored beam of light that rushed into Ling Yuhan's body. The terrifying bloodline seal in Ling Yuhan's body began to tremble. When Tianyang sensed this situation, he immediately activated the true origin that he had left in Ling Yuhan's body. Originally, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens for Qian Han's blood essence to break the bloodline seal. However, things were completely different after Tianyang joined in. Break! Tianyang shouted in a low voice. The true origin in his body surged out. At the same time, Qian Han completely burned his blood essence. The powerful bloodline seal that could not be shaken was completely shattered by their attacks. Boom! A monstrous blood-colored beam of light shot into the sky. It was accompanied by an unparalleled and terrifying aura. A pure white shadow suddenly appeared on Ling Yuhan's body. Suddenly, two pure white beast ears jumped out from the top of Ling Yuhan's head. Behind her, two white tails also began to wag. A bloodline pressure that seemed to suppress everything enveloped the entire Inua mountain range. For a moment, all the magical beasts knelt on the ground and did not dare to move at all. Qian Han was even more shocked when he saw this. Chapter 202. This is the legendary divine beast bloodline, the nine-tailed moon fox. Where did this little girl come from? Even the leader of the nine-tailed fox clan back then could not possibly have such a bloodline. Qian Han's heart was in turmoil as he stared in shock at Ling Yuhan, who had grown a pair of fox ears and two white tails. The bloodline pressure seemed to be oppressing even him. Qian Han even felt that even if he had not died yet, he would not be able to defeat Ling Yuhan. Facing the current Ling Yuhan, he could only submit to her. Demons and demonic beasts revered their bloodlines. Bloodlines determine the upper limit of most demons and demonic beasts. For example, Qian Han had only awakened the ordinary nine-tailed demon fox bloodline. At most, he could condense the ninth fox tail and cultivate to the peak of the Dao Fire Realm. There were 3 levels in the Dao Fire Realm. Qian Han could cultivate to the 3rd level of the Dao Fire Realm with the nine-tailed demon fox bloodline. Although he had not reached the peak, he was definitely one of the best in the nine-tailed fox clan. However, even Qian Han could only crawl and tremble in front of Ling Yuhan's bloodline. This was because the bloodline that Ling Yuhan had awakened was the bloodline of the gods, the nine-tailed moon fox. It was one of the strongest bloodlines that only existed in myths and legends. The nine-tailed moon fox was the supreme bloodline of the nine-tailed fox clan. It was the ruler of the moon and could control heaven and earth. Its combat power was unparalleled in the world. Even in the history of the nine-tailed fox clan, including the incomplete ancient history, there was no mention of a nine-tailed heavenly moon fox. There were only a few records of it. The nine-tailed fox clan only treated these as legends. However, a living legend had appeared in front of Qian Han. Yuhan, no, your highness. You have just awakened the nine-tailed moon fox bloodline and have not fully activated the power of the bloodline. I advise you to hurry up and cultivate. The more power of the bloodline you can activate, the better. Qian Han said respectfully. The respect in his tone was even greater than when he had faced Tianyang. After all, the Tianji Sword Emperor Tianyang was still a human, and the person in front of her was the supreme bloodline of the nine-tailed fox clan. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan was shocked. She didn't bother to observe the changes after the awakening of her bloodline. She immediately sat down cross-legged and stimulated the enormous bloodline power in her body. Seeing this, Qian Han smiled and nodded. She waved her hand and the Yin Spirit Pearl, which used to be her spiritual treasure, appeared in her hand. After 10,000 years, this Yin Spirit Pearl has stored quite a bit of Moon Spirit Qi. I'll give it all to your highness. Ling Yuhan said in a low voice. Then the Yin Spirit Jewel shone brightly and countless Moon Spirit Qi gushed out. Then it was swallowed into Ling Yuhan's body and turned into true essence. At this moment, the Ice Emperor's heavenly sword art was also circulating rapidly refining the surrounding heaven and earth spirit chi and moon spirit chi. It wasn't clear if the Ice Emperor did it on purpose, but the Ice Emperor's heavenly sword art actually merged perfectly with Ling Yuhan's nine-tailed heavenly moon fox bloodline. This was something that even Tianyang didn't expect. While Qianhan took out all her treasures to help Ling Yuhan cultivate, Tianyang was also outside and began to search for the Yin spirit grass that he needed. Yin spirit grass was an Yin attribute treasure on the same level as Nine Suns grass. It was also the best material to cultivate the heavenly dragon's body. Moreover, Tianyang was confident that with the Yin spirit grass and Nine Suns grass, in addition to the treasures that he had collected previously, he might be able to refine a powerful elixir. The most powerful elixir among the grade 3 elixirs, the Yin-Yang elixir. If he had the Yin-Yang elixir, it would be easy for Tianyang to cultivate the heavenly dragon's body. Not bad, found it. Tianyang was pleasantly surprised when he saw the Yin spirit grass, which looked like an ordinary grass, in front of him. He immediately reached out and plucked it. Although the Yin spirit grass contained boundless Yin energy, it looked like an ordinary grass, and its aura was restrained. If one wasn't extremely familiar with the Yin spirit grass, it would be impossible to find it. With the Yin spirit grass, he now had all the ingredients to refine the Yin-Yang elixir. It seems that Yuhan still needs some time to awaken her bloodline. Then, I shall refine the Yin-Yang elixir while I'm at it. Tianyang chuckled. Then he took out his elixir cauldron and began to refine the elixir. The refining of the Yin-Yang elixir wasn't as difficult as the Huayuan elixir. It was almost the same as refining a grade 1 elixir. After all, the effect of the Yin-Yang elixir was completely dependent on the ingredients. The better the ingredients used to refine the Yin-Yang elixir, the more powerful the Yin-Yang elixir would be. A pill that wasn't difficult to refine naturally wouldn't take Tianyang too much time. Even though the Yin spirit grass and Nine Sun grass were the best ingredients to refine the Yin-Yang elixir, it was the same. After refining the Yin-Yang elixir, Tianyang looked at the cave again. There was still no sign of it coming out. Hence, he entered into a state of cultivation. With a level 3 Dao Fire Realm nine-tailed fox protecting him, Tianyang didn't believe that there was anything in the northern wilderness secret territory that could threaten him. As time passed, even after Tianyang had reached the peak of level 6, Ling Yuhan's bloodline awakening finally came to an end. The moon spirit Qi in the Yin spirit pearl and the other treasures that Qianhan had collected were all absorbed by Ling Yuhan. What shocked Qianhan the most was that after all the treasures were absorbed by Ling Yuhan's cultivation didn't increase at all. That's not right. Previously, it was the bloodline that was devouring my treasures. It wasn't Her Highness who was using them to cultivate. To be able to devour so many treasures, the bloodline of the nine-tailed moon fox is indeed the legendary bloodline of the gods. Its future is limitless. Bloodline determined the upper limit. However, for Ling Yuhan's nine-tailed moon fox, there was no upper limit. After all, it was the bloodline of the gods. Soon, outside, Tianyang felt the aura in the cave getting more and more intense. He opened his eyes and stood up, looking into the cave. Qianhan's soul shadow was already somewhat transparent. Because he was helping Ling Yuhan awaken her bloodline, it became much more transparent. Seeing this, Tianyang made up his mind. If there were any treasures that could restore one's soul power in the future, he would definitely prepare one for Qianhan. In the future, when he was strong enough, he could directly use his divine power to revive Qianhan. After all, Qianhan had done so much for Ling Yuhan. As Ling Yuhan's master, Tianyang couldn't possibly not feel anything. It's coming. Qianyang's heart skipped a beat. He stared intently at Ling Yuhan, who was cultivating. At this moment, the nine-tailed moon fox's bloodline in Ling Yuhan's body began to feed back. The bloodline devoured the awakening and then fed back to the main body. The two snow-white fox tails on her back began to swing rapidly. The pair of fox ears on Ling Yuhan's head also began to tremble. In the next moment, the Ice Emperor's Heavenly Sword Manual was activated at an extremely fast speed. Ling Yuhan's cultivation began to increase by leaps and bounds. Bright Chi Realm Level 4. Bright Chi Realm Level 5. Bright Chi Realm Level 6. Bright Chi Realm Level 7. Bright Chi Realm Level 8. Level 9. Chapter 203. The Peak of the Clear Chi Realm. When Ling Yuhan's aura reached its peak, even the Tianji Sword Emperor was shocked. The nine-tailed moon fox bloodline was so terrifying. Before this, Ling Yuhan was only at the Clear Chi Realm Level 4. Even if she was talented, it would be extremely difficult for her to break through to the Clear Chi Realm Level 7 in the Northern Wilderness Secret Territory. However, after the nine-tailed moon fox bloodline was awakened, Ling Yuhan was able to reach the peak of the Clear Chi Realm just by relying on the power of the reverse nourishment. Not good. At this moment, Tianyang's face changed. Even if she has the god's bloodline, her foundation will be unstable. If she only wants to be strong now, she won't be able to achieve anything higher in the future. Tianyang's face darkened. Looking at Ling Yuhan's beautiful face, Tianyang's heart raced. He did not want his disciple to forget his teachings and sacrifice her future after gaining such a bloodline. Qinhan also thought of this and looked at Ling Yuhan anxiously. However, they could not say anything to remind her. Ling Yuhan was currently in the midst of the bloodline nourishment. Even if she could hear, Tianyang definitely wouldn't disturb her, much less hear anything. If the reverse nourishment collapsed, it would be even more terrifying than an unstable foundation. Her aura has dropped. At this moment, Tianyang's soul stirred as he sensed the aura on Ling Yuhan's body suddenly drop. A gratified smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The peak of the Clear Chi Realm, the 9th level of the Clear Chi Realm, the 8th level, the 7th level. What Tianyang did not expect was that Ling Yuhan actually suppressed so fiercely, directly suppressing a full 4 minor levels. With this kind of suppression, it will still rebound. Tianyang muttered. The huge rock that had been hanging in his heart had finally been lifted. It was obvious that Ling Yuhan had not forgotten his teachings. Even if there was a sudden increase in strength, and the temptation of advancing by leaps and bounds to the peak of the Clear Chi tier was placed in front of him, he still very wisely chose his foundation. For martial artists, the foundation was more important than anything else. If the foundation was not stable, even if one's cultivation had reached the heavenly ascension realm, one day it would collapse and become a cripple. The higher you build, the faster you collapse. This was something Tianyang often said to Ling Yuhan. Ling Yuhan also remembered it well. At this moment, Ling Yuhan's aura changed again. Ling Yuhan had suppressed her aura to the Clear Chi realm to the Clear Chi realm. Now, it would naturally rise again. However, under Ling Yuhan's control, the rise was very gentle. When it reached the peak of the Clear Chi realm, it did not continue. For Ling Yuhan, this was the best choice. After her aura stabilized, Ling Yuhan opened her eyes. A ray of light shot out from her eyes. It was as if it was about to shatter the stone in front of her. At this moment, Ling Yuhan saw the smiling Tianyang. She could not suppress the excitement in her heart and immediately pounced on him. Seeing this, Tianyang also revealed a gratified smile. He did not dodge, nor did he dodge. Instead, he opened his arms and firmly caught Ling Yuhan. "Ha! Master, I'm stronger than you now," Ling Yuhan said excitedly. Her 2 fox tails swayed continuously, and the furry fox ears on the top of her head also trembled, expressing the excitement in her heart. Hearing this, Tianyang laughed and said, "That's good. I'll put you down for a fight. Do you want to?" Seeing Ling Yuhan's huge breakthrough, Tianyang was itching for a fight. Originally, he was fighting with the Crescent Lion, but he was interrupted by Ling Yuhan. Tianyang was a little angry. Now that Ling Yuhan's bloodline had awakened, her strength had increased tremendously. She might even be qualified to fight with him. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan was shocked and said weakly, "Let's just forget about it." Hearing this, Tianyang laughed and put Ling Yuhan down. Then, He reached out and pinched Ling Yuhan's fox ears curiously. They're quite soft. Master, let go. Only when Ling Yuhan blushed and pushed Tianyang away did Tianyang stop and chuckle. I haven't seen many members of a nine-tailed fox clan. I don't know any of them. You won't lose a piece of flesh from pinching them. Anyway, no way, Ling Yuhan said shyly. Seeing this, Qianhan looked at them strangely. She was starting to believe Tianyang's words. Did the sword overlord really not know the taboo of the nine-tailed fox clan? Qianhan felt that if someone dared to pinch her ears like that, she would definitely fight the other party to the death. All right. When the two of them stopped, Qianhan said, Your Highness, now that you've awakened the bloodline of the nine-tailed crescent fox, you're considered the destined king of the nine-tailed fox clan. Of course, I don't know the current state of the nine-tailed fox clan. However, I've already refined the Een Spirit Pearl with the nine-tailed fox imprint. Your Highness, you can use it now, Qianhan said as he floated around the remains. If an ordinary person saw this, he would definitely faint from fright. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan was stunned. Then, she said in surprise, Really? What was the Een Spirit Pearl? Tianyang had already explained to her on the way here. It was a treasure that could make a Dao Fire Realm expert go crazy. Even an expert who was a realm higher than the Dao Fire Realm would covet it. Ling Yuhan thought that Qianhan wanted to keep such a treasure for himself. She did not expect him to let her use it directly. Of course, the nine-tailed crescent fox clan is the bloodline of the gods of our clan. According to the rules of the ancient times, Your Highness, you're now the king of our clan. Qianhan kept the remains and waved his hand. The Een Spirit Pearl that was hidden deep underground broke out of the ground. Although the Een Spirit Pearl had released the Moon Spirit Qi for Ling Yuhan to absorb, Qianhan did not summon it immediately because he was afraid of other demonic beasts. Now that Ling Yuhan had awakened the bloodline of the nine-tailed moon fox and had reached the peak of the 7th level of the Bright Qi realm, she was no longer afraid of those magical beasts of the 3rd or 4th level of the origin transformation stage. It could be said that if Tianyang did not use his trump card, he might not be a match for Ling Yuhan. Because Your Highness has used up too much of the Moon Spirit Qi to awaken the bloodline, the Een Spirit Pearl can't use much of its power even though it has the power of a middle-grade spiritual weapon. I'm now sleeping inside to recover my cultivation. If Your Highness is in danger, call me out immediately, Qianhan said solemnly. At this moment, Tianyang suddenly frowned. This Een Spirit Pearl seems to be the source of the Een Spirit Qi in the Enu Mountains. If the Een Spirit Pearl were to leave, the Enu Mountains wouldn't change greatly, right? Tianyang said. Although he did not say it explicitly, Qianhan understood the meaning behind his words and smiled. Sword, Tianyang, rest assured, the Een Spirit Pearl has been here for 10,000 years. The Een Spirit Qi that it has summoned has become a part of the Enu Mountains, forming a huge cycle. Even though the Jewel of the Nether Spirit has started, it doesn't have much effect on Enu Mountain anymore. Even if we were to take it away, the Enu Mountains will not be destroyed. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded slightly. Qianhan also entered the Een Spirit Pearl. After that, Tianyang left the Enu Mountains with Ling Yuhan. Chapter 204. Master, where are we going now? Ling Yuhan, who was lying on Tianyang's back, looked at Tianyang, who seemed to have a destination in mind, and asked curiously. The Northern Wilderness Secret Territory was a completely unknown map to people from small countries like them. However, Tianyang seemed to know everything. No matter where he went, he had a destination. It should be noted that other than the Arctic state, there were still people from many other countries wandering around the Northern Barren Territory like headless flies. Are we going to the 9 steps stairway to the center of the Northern Wilderness Secret Territory? Ling Yuhan asked doubtfully. The 9 steps heavenly stairs was the final test of the Northern Desolate Secret Realm, and also the greatest opportunity. It was not strange for them to prepare in advance. How was that possible? Hearing this, Tianyang laughed involuntarily. The 9 steps to heaven will only open in the last 3 days. We have only been in the Northern Wilderness Secret Realm for a little over a week. The exploration of the Northern Wilderness Secret Territory has a total of 3 months. We have already explored the How You Cave Mansion in a week. What about the rest? Now, according to the map in my hand, there are traces of spiritual fire in the north of the Giant Sun mountain range. Tianyang smiled. Ling Yuhan was shocked. Spiritual fire? The legendary fire that is countless times stronger than the true essence fire. Yes, but I don't know what grade it is. If it is grade 3 or higher, then we have struck gold. Tianyang smiled. He also had a spiritual fire in his previous life. Spiritual fire was a strange flame that was born between heaven and earth. It was extremely powerful. Legend had it that a powerful spiritual fire could easily burn down a country. Although Tianyang had a spiritual fire, it was only one. It could not be compared to those who were born with powerful fire attributes and could control many types of spiritual fire. That spiritual fire was a grade 2 spiritual fire. The power of a spiritual fire was only a small part of its grade. Most of it came from the owner's cultivation. In his previous life, Tianyang had been at the peak of the Heaven Ascension realm. He had been a peerless emperor, the Tianji Sword Emperor. With such a cultivation base, even a first-grade spiritual fire could easily destroy a country. A second-grade spiritual fire was even more powerful, and the blue heart fire that Tianyang controlled was even more bizarre. Under the support of Tianyang's cultivation of the Heaven Ascension realm, even other emperors could only temporarily avoid it. After all, Tianyang was the #1 expert of that era. Unfortunately, the grade determined the upper limit of the spirit fire. Although Tianyang controlled the second-grade spirit fire, serene blue heart fire, he could only strengthen it to that level. If the Heavenly Sun had a grade 3 or grade 4 spirit fire, perhaps it would even be able to withstand the terrifying apocalyptic apocalypse of civilization. Hearing this, even Qian Han, who was hiding in the Nether Soul Pearl, was moved. Even though she was an expert in the third heaven of the Dao Fire realm, she could not help but be tempted by a worldly wonder like the spiritual fire. However, she was only a remnant soul right now. Although she was tempted, she would definitely not be willing to go and collect the spiritual fire. After all, something like the spiritual fire restrained the soul the most. Let's go. Since I can get this news, I'm sure the others have also gotten it. Tianyang chuckled. Soon after, he circulated the true essence in his body and used the Void Step secret technique. He started to fly towards the north of the Giant Sun mountain range. According to the map obtained from Feng Qing, there was still a certain amount of time before the birth of the spiritual fire. However, it would be soon. North of the Giant Sun mountain range, Jiang Xian, Yi Zhanling, and the rest look at the people from Windy Nation who blocked their path with an ugly expression. The true essence in their bodies circulated, and they almost had the intention to attack. In front of them, the group of Windy Nation disciples led by Zhang Deco all had a wild smile on their faces. They looked at Yi Zhanling and the rest who wanted to attack, but did not dare to. Haha, aren't you Yi Zhanling the #1 genius of Snowgale Nation? What? Isn't it just the original #1 genius being taken care of by us, and you're scared? Zhang Deco looked at Yi Zhanling in front of him and laughed arrogantly. Hearing this, Yi Zhanling and the rest looked even worse. Behind them, there was a young man with a pale face who was seriously injured. His eyes looked as if they were about to spit fire. His name was Lu Ao, and he was the #1 genius in King City. He had the combat power of the peak of Clear Chi Realm level 7. However, it was unknown what kind of opportunity the people from Windy Nation had obtained. Outside the Northern Wilderness Secret Territory, a young man who was only at Clear Chi Realm level 7 had actually risen to Clear Chi Realm level 8. There was a huge gap between every level. Originally, when Lu Qing was not around, the people from Snowgale Nation could still contend with the people from Windy Nation. However, when that person broke through to Clear Chi Realm level 8, the originally balanced situation was instantly broken. This spiritual fire, don't even think about it. If I were you, I would immediately turn around and leave. Otherwise, when senior brother Lu Qing arrives, he might kill you all in a fit of anger. Zhang Deco sneered. Hearing this, Yi Zhanling's face became even more gloomy. The long sword on Yi Zhanling's back began to stir. Yi Zhanling had already reached the 7th level of the bright Qi realm, and his true essence began to surge as he stared at Zhang Dekou. He could not hold it in any longer. Let's go. Meanwhile, the pale and heavily injured Liu Ao sighed and gritted his teeth as he spoke in a low voice. Hearing this, Jiang Xian, Yi Zhanling, and the rest trembled as they looked at Liu Ao in disbelief. "Brother Liu, why are you?" Jiang Xian could not help but ask. However, he was ruthlessly interrupted by Liu Ao. "Let's go." Liu Ao gritted his teeth and roared. Hearing this, Jiang Xian also sighed and looked at the group of geniuses from King City and other places. They were all geniuses from Snowgale Nation. They came to the Northern Wilderness Secret Territory to train themselves and become the pillars that supported Snowgale Nation. However, now that they met the people from Windy Nation, they had to run away with their tails between their legs. Ha! A wise man submits to circumstances. This Liu Ao is obviously a well-known wise man. Seeing that Liu Ao was about to leave, Zhang Dekou once again burst into unbridled laughter. They had the support of a clear Qi realm cultivator at the 8th level, and the people here were at most at the 7th level of the clear Qi realm. Why would they care about Yi Zhanling's group of people from the Arctic state? Hearing this, Liu Ao's face turned even uglier. The rest of the people also looked at Zhang Dekou angrily. However, when the clear Qi realm level 8 martial artist looked at them, they all sighed. In this world of martial arts, the strong were respected. They could only leave. Jiang Xian, Liu Ao, you guys go. I will stay. Yi Zhanling gritted his teeth and took a step forward and said angrily. Hearing this, Jiang Xian was stunned, and then his face showed a trace of anger. Get lost. You are the one who should leave. None of us from Snowgale Nation will give up without a fight. The cloud-soaring sect will not leave just like that. Yi Zhanling roared. Hearing this, Liu Ao was stunned. The rest of the people beside him also felt their blood boiling. Senior Brother Yi, if Senior Brother Jiang does not leave, we will not leave. The people from Snowgale Nation shouted together. Hearing this, Liu Ao trembled. Hearing this, Zhang Dechou's face also showed a trace of ferocity. Looks like you guys are shameless. Senior Brother Liu, these people from Snowgale Nation challenged your dignity. If it were me, I would not tolerate it. Zhang Dekou said. Hearing this, the young man who had been silent also raised his head. A sharp glint flashed across his eyes. Since you guys are not leaving, then all of you will stay here. Chapter 205. The 8th level bright Qi realm expert, Liu Jiang, had made his move. Seeing that, the expressions of the people from the Arctic Nation changed drastically. As for the people from the Windy Nation, they all revealed expressions of excitement. Senior Liu Jiang, kill them. These people from Blizzard State should have died long ago. Zhang Dekou roared. Hearing this, Liu Jiang's eyes flashed with a sharp light. His 8th level bright Qi realm energy was activated, and he charged towards the people from Blizzard State. Shit! Seeing this, Jiang Xian's face changed, revealing a hint of retreating. At this moment, Yi Zhanling's body shook, and his 7th level bright Qi realm energy surged out. So what if you're the 8th level? Eat my sword. 7 stars sword combo. Yi Zhanling roared, and his 7th level bright Qi realm energy was almost boiling. In the next moment, 7 streaks of sword light shot out like shooting stars. 7-star sword combo had been trained to the peak of the 2nd stage by Yi Zhanling, and he had a certain degree of confidence in using it to block Liu Jiang. It's actually a profound level martial arts technique, and it's even trained to this level. Liu Jiang looked at the 7 meteor-like sword rays in shock, and his face suddenly changed. However, he immediately adjusted his expression. The martial arts technique is not bad, but the strength is too weak. Profound upper-level martial arts technique, Gale Fist. Die! Liu Jiang roared, and his 8th level bright Qi realm energy was activated, turning into a Gale Fist technique. The 7-star sword combo bombarded on top of Liu Jiang's fist, but it did not have any effect. It only made Liu Jiang's mouth bleed, and his face paled a little. However, this fist had already bombarded Yi Zhanling's chest. Pooh! A mouthful of blood spurted out from Yi Zhanling's mouth. Yi Zhanling's body was also blown away by this fist, and his face was extremely pale. This punch almost caused Yi Zhanling to be seriously injured. Senior Yi, seeing this, Jiang Xian's face changed, and he hurriedly activated his energy to help. However, Lu Zhang's face turned cold, and he turned around and punched Jiang Xian again. Profound middle-level martial arts technique, giant wave fist. Boom! Along with this punch, Jiang Xian, like Yi Zhanling, spat out blood and flew backwards. He was like a kite with its string cut as he powerlessly floated down in the air. Lu Ao's face turned ghastly pale when he saw this. Earlier, he had been beaten to such a state by Lu Jiang. However, in these short few seconds, the other strongest people of Snowgale State were also heavily injured by Lu Jiang. The Arctic State was almost completely annihilated. Humph! You dare to go against our Windy Nation? You're looking for death. Seeing that Yi Zhanling and Jiang Xian were easily defeated, Zhang Dekou also jumped out at the first moment, laughing wildly as he looked at the people from Arctic State. Hearing this, the faces of the people from the Snowgale Nation were all deathly pale, because at this moment, the person who defeated Yi Zhanling and Jiang Xian within 2 punches looked towards them again. Even experts like Yi Zhanling and Jiang Xian were unable to withstand a single blow from Lu Jiang, let alone ordinary cultivators like them. I thought that the person who was able to defeat Yi Zhanling would be some kind of expert. Who would have thought that he was just at the peak of the clear Qi realm? I say, Yi Zhanling, as the senior of our Soaring Cloud sect, why are you getting worse and worse? Faint laughter came from the side. Hearing this, the people from the Arctic State were furious. Who is this person? Yi Zhanling was already heavily injured, and he still dared to provoke them. However, when he heard that the person was only at the peak of the clear Qi realm, Lu Jiang's face revealed a trace of disbelief. His cultivation was actually seen through by this person. Who is this person? At this moment, Yi Zhanling, who was lying on the ground, was still vomiting blood. When he heard this voice, he suddenly opened his eyes wide and stared in the direction of the person who came. Tianyang, you are here. Yi Zhanling was shocked. Then he suddenly looked at the gloomy Lu Jiang and hurriedly shouted, Tianyang, leave quickly. There's a clear Qi realm expert here. Don't speak first. At this moment, Tianyang had already used the dragon suppression step and arrived in front of Yi Zhanling. He lifted his hand and checked his pulse for a while. His face became gloomy. Tianyang took out a healing elixir from his space bag and fed it to Yi Zhanling. Then, he stood up and looked at Lu Jiang with a cold gaze. Yi Zhanling's injuries were extremely serious. If it wasn't for his strong cultivation, he would have died. Tianyang also valued Yi Zhanling very much. He was one of the few friends he had. However, his friend was heavily injured by this person. Lu Jiang also met Tianyang's gaze. However, when he saw Tianyang's cold gaze, Lu Jiang's body suddenly trembled. Even his mind was trembling. This gaze seemed to have no emotions. It was only cold. It was so cold that it didn't seem like a human's. Who are you? Lu Jiang bit the tip of his tongue and forced himself to calm down. He stared at Tianyang and said in a deep voice, Soaring Cloud Sect, Tianyang. Tianyang smiled. In the next moment, the smile disappeared. The killing sword in his hand shone with a bloody light. Seeing this, Lu Jiang's face changed. What is your relationship with the people of Blizzard State? At this moment, Ling Yuhan, who had put away her martial soul and returned to her human form, looked at this scene from afar. She had a gentle smile on her face and had no intention of intervening. She knew that Tianyang would be fine. Even in the entire Northern Wilderness secret territory, no one could threaten Tianyang. A peak level 8 Bright Qi realm was no exception. Soaring Cloud Sect is a sect of Blizzard State. Yi Zhanling is the eldest senior brother of Soaring Cloud Sect. Tianyang said indifferently. At this moment, Zhang Dekou saw Tianyang's face and laughed wildly. Senior brother Lu Jiang, This guy is just a level 6 bright Chi realm trash. A trash like him dares to offend our windy state. Senior brother Lu Jiang, teach him a lesson. Hearing this, Lu Jiang's face changed completely. He then revealed a sinister smile. You're just a level 6 bright Chi realm trash, and you dare to play the hero? It seems that you're here to die. Upper class dark class martial technique, hurricane fist. Lu Jiang roared. He gathered the true yuan in his body and punched out. Seeing this punch, the hearts of the people from the Snow Gale state rose to their throats. It was this punch that had just killed Yi Zhanling in an instant. This person looked like he was also from Blizzard State, but could he withstand this attack? Dying. In a flash, Lu Jiang arrived in front of Tianyang. With a furious roar, he gathered a strong gale in his fist and smashed it down. Bang! There was a loud explosion, but Lu Jiang did not feel his head exploding. He opened his eyes and was shocked to find that his fist was already in Tianyang's hand. You dare to be impudent in front of me with this little strength, Tianyang said indifferently. His voice was calm, but it made the people around him tremble. Then you can die. Then Tianyang used his strength and crushed the bones in Lu Jiang's hand. Ah! The bones in Lu Jiang's hand were crushed, and he howled in pain. Tianyang frowned. This noise was annoying. Then Tianyang kicked him. His dantian was shattered, and his sea of qi collapsed. Then, True Yuan went berserk. Chapter 206. Boom! Blood splattered everywhere as pieces of his body flew in all directions. Flowers of blood blossomed, forming a beautiful picture. However, this was only in Tianyang's eyes. In the eyes of everyone else, the insufferably arrogant bright Qi realm 8th level cultivator had exploded. Lu Jiang, who had been laughing arrogantly just a moment ago, exploded and died in less than half a minute after attacking Tianyang. TSK, I almost dirted my hands. Looking at the bloodstains and pieces of flesh in front of him, Tianyang pursed his lips and swept away the filth with his true yuan. Then, Tianyang raised his head and smiled at the people of Heavenly Wind Nation. Seeing this, Zhang Deco trembled and almost lost control of his lower body. This was because Tianyang's gaze had landed on him. He's the Demon King. Zhang Deco screamed in horror. Then, without caring about his image as a genius disciple of Heavenly Wind Nation, he immediately turned and ran. He was terrified. His biggest backer, Lu Jiang, had died at the hands of Tianyang in such a cruel and overbearing way. He was also afraid that his end would be the same as Lu Jiang's. The current Heavenly Wind Nation no longer had Lu Qing and Lu Jiang, the two bright Qi realm 8th level cultivators. What was left were a few bright Qi realm 7th level cultivators. In the north of the giant Sun Mountain range, where the spiritual fire was located, they were like fish on a chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Did you really think that I would let you run away? Looking at the people of Heavenly Wind Nation running away after Zhang Dechu's roar, Tianyang smirked. How could there be so many idiots in this world? A stream of true yuan circulated around his finger. Then, Tianyang blew lightly, and the true yuan turned into 8 rays of light and shot out. The true yuan rays were like sharp arrows, piercing through the air and chasing after the Heavenly Wind Nation disciples. Then, without hesitation, they pierced through the backs of those people and pierced their hearts. Then, they brazenly self-destructed. Boom! With another explosion, the 8 people also turned into human bombs with the same fate as Lu Jiang, exploding on the road. Even Lu Qing and Lu Jiang have been killed. Might as well not leave a single person from the Windy Nation alive. Tianyang explained seriously as he turned around. Hearing this, Lu Ao, Jiang Xian, and the others shuddered. Only Yi Zhanling, who was familiar with the Tianyang, knew a little about the Tianyang. This Tianyang always cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. In the hidden dragon ancient land, Chao Kuangying had offended him, so he directly killed Chao Kuangying. After killing Shui Kuang, he also killed Shui Kong. It was even more likely that the people of the Snow Mountain sect had all died at his hands. Now, if Windy Nation had stopped earlier, it would have been fine. Perhaps Tianyang would have killed Lu Jiang at most. However, this group of people actually ridiculed Tianyang. When Tianyang was in a bad mood, he killed everyone in the Windy Nation. Wasn't that normal? All right, what are you guys here for? Tianyang asked curiously as he looked at the people with different expressions. This was the place where the spiritual fire was born. A treasure of that level was definitely not something that Yi Zhanling and the others could touch. It was the same even for the Windy Nation. I heard that there was a treasure of the fire attribute here, so I came to check it out. I didn't expect it to be a spiritual fire. Moreover, I met the people from the Windy Nation. Yi Zhanling smiled bitterly. Hearing this, Tianyang also felt a little emotional. The attraction of the spiritual fire was really extraordinary. Even the people from the Windy Nation who didn't have the strength to fight for the spiritual fire were waiting here. However, Yi Zhanling and the people from the Windy Nation suffered an unexpected calamity. They thought that it was just an ordinary treasure of the fire attribute. They didn't expect it to be the legendary spiritual fire. This is a healing pill. It's useless to keep it here. Take it and go back to heal your injuries. Tianyang took out a few small jade bottles from his space bag and handed them to Yi Zhanling. The fight for the spiritual fire is not something that an ordinary Clear Chi Realm Level 7 cultivator can participate in. If you break through to Clear Chi Realm Level 8, you can still get a share of it. However, you're only at Clear Chi Realm Level 7. You won't have any advantage in the fight for the spiritual fire. Even saving your life is a luxury, Tianyang said solemnly. Yi Zhanling was one of the few friends he had since his rebirth. Tianyang had to persuade him. After all, he couldn't just sit and watch his friend die. However, after hearing these words, the light in Yi Zhanling's eyes gradually dimmed. Yes, after coming to the Northern Wilderness Secret Territory, I realized that I might be able to be the king of the Windy Nation. However, in the Northern Wilderness region, I'm nothing. In the whole continent, I'm just a tiny ant. Tianyang, we'll leave now. You stay here and fight for the spiritual fire. Take care. Yi Zhanling patted Tianyang's shoulder and left with a group of Windy Nation disciples. Yi Zhanling's expression was complicated. He knew that after he left, he wouldn't have many chances to interact with Tianyang in the future. People always improve. Previously, Yi Zhanling could barely keep up with Tianyang's speed of improvement. However, now, Tianyang had left him in the dust. Even if the strong wanted to interact with the weak, it was very difficult to do so. It wasn't because of arrogance, but because there was no common topic between the strong and the weak. Senior Yi, take care. At this time, Ling Yuhan came to Yi Zhanling and clasped her fist. Hearing this, Yi Zhanling nodded. Then, he looked at Ling Yuhan's aura in shock. Ew, peak of level 7 bright Qi realm? After that, Yi Zhanling glanced at Tianyang, who was watching them leave, and smiled. You too, master and disciple, are really one evildoer after another. I'm afraid that even in the history of the Northern Wilderness region, there wouldn't be such monstrous geniuses. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan smiled and skipped back to Tianyang's side. Yi Zhanling, on the other hand, smiled and said goodbye to Tianyang and left for other places. The fatigue in Yi Zhanling's heart was awakened by Ling Yuhan. Even if the two of them were monstrous geniuses, would he fall so low? They moved forward and he chased after them. Wouldn't that be better? Thinking of this, Yi Zhanling's lips curled into a smile. Under Tianyang's gaze, he disappeared into the giant Sun Mountain range. At this time, Tianyang turned his head and looked at the few black dots in the distance. Level 8 Bright Chi Realm, peak level 8 Bright Chi Realm, and even level 9 Bright Chi Realm. The attraction of this spiritual fire is really something. Circulating the true yuan in his body, Tianyang curled his lips and smiled. Ling Yuhan, who was beside him, had a flash of light in her eyes. Together with Tianyang, she took a step forward. Her eyes met with the people in the distance. Between each other, there was a cold look. Chapter 207. Haha, Sky Moon Country, Tinsong Country, and Snowfield Country are all here. The charm of this spiritual fire is not to be underestimated. Tianyong chuckled as he looked at the geniuses from the three countries. He took a few steps forward and looked at the crowd with indifferent eyes. And these people suddenly realized that there was someone who was faster than them at the birthplace of the spiritual fire. "Who are you?" A young man of bright Chi realm at the 7th level shouted when he saw Tianyong. "Which country are you from?" "Snowgale country," Tianyong replied with a smile. Hearing this, the young man was stunned. He looked at Tianyong and sensed that Tianyong had not completely concealed his aura. His face suddenly became ferocious. "You're just a bright Chi realm trash from a small country. How dare you compete with us for the spiritual fire? Die!" The young man laughed maniacally. His body flashed, and in an instant his speed exploded. Seeing this, even Tianyong, who had seen countless cruel things in the world of martial arts, was stunned. Then, Tianyong felt that it was funny. Is this guy stupid? Even if he was at the 6th level of the Bright Chi realm, he was not an ordinary person. "Master, don't attack this time. Let me do it." Just as Tianyong was about to attack, Ling Yuhan suddenly said. Then, the dark ice sword appeared in her hand. The dark ice sword had been refined by Tianyong once with a brilliant gold swordstone, but it did not have the opportunity to refine the killing sword. Therefore, it was still a distance away from being an upper-grade treasure weapon. But the dark ice sword would still be able to defeat a peak middle-grade treasure weapon. Aurora's swordsmanship. Ling Yuhan gave a low shout, and the profound ice sword suddenly exploded with a blinding light. Although it had not reached the level of Heavenly Sun, which was infinitely close to the 3rd stage, it had reached the large success of the 2nd stage. The most important and strongest point of the Aurora swordsmanship was its speed. In the world of martial arts, only speed was unbeatable. What? Seeing the swordsmanship that was flickering with a terrifying aurora, the young man's face suddenly changed, and then he became cold again. "Trash, how dare you resist? So what if he is at the peak of the 7th level? Trash from a small country, you still have to die. However, this chick is quite beautiful. After I injure her seriously, I can." The young man roared as a lustful light flashed in his eyes. The true yuan in his body circulated rapidly, and he threw out a punch. Half-step earth tier martial technique, fire dragon fist. In the next moment, a true essence flame seemed to condense into a flaming dragon, ruthlessly rushing towards Ling Yuhan. However, Ling Yuhan's expression remained unchanged when she saw this. She even withdrew her martial soul, and a majestic true yuan burst out from her body. Break! Boom! The fire dragon fist and the aurora sword art collided fiercely. Then, under the sword lights that were as fast as the speed of light, the fire dragon fist was shattered in the blink of an eye. Pooh! After the fire dragon fist was broken, the young man spat out a mouthful of blood and looked at Ling Yuhan in shock. He would never have thought that this beautiful girl would have such terrifying strength. His fire dragon fist was a half-step earth-tier martial technique that even a cultivator at the 8th level of the Aurora realm would be flustered when facing it. It was also his strongest attack. And this girl actually broke it? I was just lucky. Fire dragon fist. The young man roared again as he circulated the true yuan in his body. At this time, Ling Yuhan had already used her movement technique and took the initiative to attack. This movement technique was not one that anyone was familiar with. Even Tianyong had never seen Ling Yuhan use this movement technique before. After this movement technique was used, Ling Yuhan's figure suddenly became illusory. It was even more difficult to find than the dragon's subduing steps. Then, rays of light shot out from Ling Yuhan's body. When they landed, they turned into another Ling Yuhan. In the blink of an eye, for clones were formed by Ling Yuhan. Sky Fox movement technique. Her Highness's talent is indeed monstrous. I have only taught her for a few days, and she has already reached the beginning of the 2nd stage. At this time, Qian Han, who was hiding in the Dark Soul's precious pearl, could not help but exclaim. The nine-tailed Sky Fox was indeed a nine-tailed Sky Fox. Although the bloodline seal in Ling Yuhan's body had not been completely broken, just the power of the bloodline was enough to shock the world. What? Seeing the 5 clones, including Ling Yuhan's real body, which were difficult to distinguish between the real and the fake, the young man suddenly panicked. He could never have imagined that such a strange movement technique existed in this world. Not only could he not see anything with his naked eye, even if he used his spiritual power to scan and sense, it would be difficult to distinguish. How dare you insult Master Dai? At this time, a murderous intent flashed in Ling Yuhan's eyes. The dark ice sword in her hand shone brightly, and a monstrous amount of inner yuan began to gather. Oh no! Seeing the aura that suddenly rose from Ling Yuhan's body, the group of people behind the young man's face changed. One of them immediately stood out. Stop! I'm the eldest disciple of the Feng family of Snowfield State, Feng Yan. If you kill him, you will become an enemy of my Feng family, an enemy of Snowfield State. Feng Yin shouted loudly, a sense of satisfaction rising in his heart. In his opinion, Ling Yuhan and Qian Han were only people from a small country like Snowfield State. Although they had some power, in front of the Feng family, they would definitely tremble in fear and be captured without a fight. Feng family. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan was also stunned. Then, a sharp light shot out from her eyes. Since you are from the Feng family, you cannot be spared. Then, Ling Yuhan aimed at the young man and slashed with her sword. Frozen world. Boom! An earth-shattering sound exploded. The young man's defense with all his might did not have any effect. In the next moment, a bloody light burst out. Everyone could sense that the young man's life aura had begun to dissipate. It began to dissipate rapidly. How dare you? Sensing that the young man had died, Feng Yan's face was filled with rage. He did not expect that this person from a small country would not give face to the Feng family. One had to know that the Feng family's power was one of the top forces in the entire Northern Wilderness region. In Snowfield State, other than the royal family, there was no other force that could go against the Feng family. However, this young girl, after he had moved out of the Feng family, still tried to kill the person he wanted to protect. The most unbearable thing was that this young girl had succeeded. Damn it! How dare you offend Lord Feng Yan? Die! At this moment, a young man beside Feng Yan shouted coldly. He released the aura of a clear Qi realm level 8 cultivator and rushed towards Ling Yuhan. At the same time, Tianyang's eyes flashed sharply and released his killing sword. You, try taking another step forward,